Picture. Gather around, freaks. Charles, it's me, Charles. Charles, it's time to gather around the internet and watch your favorite show, Charles. Charles, it's time once again to watch this show, Charles. And that show is Charles. Hey, did you see this one?
Once upon a time, movie magic was dwindling, and things were changing. And this month, Stephen Waters and Hey, Did You See This One? Would like to take you back there. Take you on a trip down memory lane to revisit some of their favorite movies from the late 1900s. From cult classics to box office hits, they'll explore the mysticism of this iconic era of film history. Tune in to relive the magic of the previous century in the nostalgic 90s.
Blood! Feature, flogging, flying, pain!
Hey, don't open that! It's an alien planet! Is there air? You don't know!
Seems okay.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? This is our new intro song that I'm singing right now.
I like the old song better.
Okay, well, we'll use that one instead. Hello, everybody. It's time once again. It's that time of the week again. It's that time of the month again. It's that time of the year again to watch Hey, Did You See This One here on Twitch and on YouTube and on Facebook. It's episode 135, season 2, episode 35. My name is Jason R. Phillips, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, Stephen W. Waters. The W,
That's
of course,
me.
Stands for Waters. Stephen Waters.
Yeah,
it is his birthday
that's what
month.
they named
We are
me.
doing.
My parents are evil people.
We're watching nostalgic 90s movies from Steve's 90s childhoods, and we are joined once again this week by famed composer Alex Gow. Alex Gow, welcome back to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me
Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's too quiet.
I feel welcome.
Alex came on for our very entertaining episode known as Signs, and also our very wait, is this your second time or your third time?
This is the third.
Christine was the other one.
Christine, right, during our month.
A very entertaining episode called Signs and Christine.
That was a good episode. Also,
It was.
2 people get bisected, one in each of those movies, and someone kind of gets like horribly injured.
Semi-sected. I was waiting for it the whole time.
Me too. If that goose was going any faster, that pilot would have got.
I wish Harold Perrineau got bisected in this film by the bear. That would have been sick.
No,
he doesn't though. Great actor. But we'll get to that and more in tonight's episode. I can see people playing tennis out my window, so if I get distracted, that's why. Yes, we are talking about The Edge, starring Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins and Elle Macpherson and Harold Perrineau. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yes, it's Perrineau.
And some others. I totally thought the redhead was Joan Cusack when she was in the plane, but it's not. She's just some actor I'm not really familiar with. Before we get to the regular stuff that we do, I'm going to talk about the correct movie guesses for this week.
You know who that lady was in?
Who was that lady?
Who was that
She
lady in?
She was in Fire in the Sky. She was like the wife who was like, "I'm gonna divorce you if you don't stop talking about aliens."
That
Remember?
tracks.
That's one of
Kinda.
the only other movies I know off the top of my head that she's in. Anywho,
Play the jingle. I've got to get the picture right quick. I'm gonna see if I can
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided. Congratulations!
So, listen. I'm trying to put the picture up, but it was basically like this poster here, and it was like the bear. It was just like the bear. And guess what? Everybody was like Cocaine Bear. So I got to advertise to many people that we already covered Cocaine Bear in a very entertaining episode as well from the before time. That's a great episode. But no, it was not the bear. But I did get a lot of bites once I showed. I think you could see like part of Anthony Hopkins' head. So they were like, "Oh, I'll just look it up. What movies is he in where he's on a poster?" Anyway, the following people got it correct: Pamela Vega, the wife of Craig Webster, who has been on the show. They got it correct because it's their favorite movie, and I now remember Craig constantly saying "Charles, Charles, Charles," because in this movie, Charles is said about 180 times. Pam wanted to say, "The world is shitty, but you don't have to be Charles." Gordon McDonald, who gets it almost every week, he said, "My message is, how did the grizzly kill Stephen? With his bare hands."
oh, isn't it a Kodiak bear?
I thought it was Grizzle. That was a
No,
grizzly boy.
They say Kodiak right at the beginning. That weird man is like Kodiak bear. It'll
The
Kodiak. Kill you as soon as it looks at you.
Kodiak killer.
Yeah.
Chris Murphy, friend of the show, friend of the United Federation of Podcasts, as well as having multiple podcasts on the United Federation of Podcasts. He put a GIF of the professional wrestler Edge, which I accepted this week because that's fine. I just want to shout out his shows that he does. Hold Up, a movie podcast, as well as Trivial Debates. You can look those up on the internet, and they're pretty easy to find. Also, Noel K, friend of the show, former guest of the show, almost at the 5 times guests of the show party, which means you get your own playlist on our YouTube. They wanted to say, listen to Stick Taps and Stitches for Hockey Doodads and Whatnots. Now, I say that every week for them because they refuse to give me a message, so I just plugged a podcast. Steve Broadbent, who has guessed correct before, he wanted to shout out the Edge Pizza at 2 Pitt Street in Singleton, Australia. It's much better than Domino's. Be there, be square. So for our international fans,
What a glowing review.
yep. Be there, be square.
I wonder
Better
if it's a
than
square
Domino's.
pizza.
That'd be great.
That'd be funny.
I love a square pizza.
Be a good funny thing to do.
Somebody on Facebook from my high school era just got it correct. Chris Hill, he didn't have a message. Aaron Hurdle, former guest of the show, fan of the show, he said the new Godzilla Kong movie was dope. Glowing endorsement for that film. Ouch, there was a ghost. Got it right again this week. Ouch, there was a ghost. I finally said, "What's your podcast about?" And their message is, "Don't give cocaine to bears." Once again, not Cocaine Bear. And they wanted to let us know that they do a true crime, paranormal, anything creepy podcast. And I noticed this week they did an episode about that Japanese myth ghost that looks like an umbrella.
Did you just call it a myth ghost?
A yokai. Myth ghost.
Okay, yeah.
Myth Ghost.
Like a yokai.
Yeah.
And finally, Nicholas Latimer, who I went to wrestling training school with, also put a picture of, or a GIF of Edge. And I said, "On this day, I see clearly." That's his wrestling theme.
Let's
Anyway,
leave that in the Mark. Oh God, never mind. I fucked that joke up. Let's move on. Move along. Nothing to see here.
Yes. So next up, I gotta say, follow us on social media. You can find us on social media at Hey Did You See This One? This is your call to action. Please do it. It costs nothing for now. Someday I'm gonna charge $1 million per episode because the economy will be so messed up that $1 million will be kind of like minimum wage. That'll probably happen in our lifetime the way inflation is going. You know what's crazy about inflation? Like, it's never gonna go back down. It's just going to keep going up and up and up and up and up until we all live in a vault from Fallout.
Yep.
That's my.
I mean, it's like there are plenty of countries where you go there and it's like 1 million schmoogles, please, for like a bag of oranges.
Yeah, which is soon, except for it'll cost 1 million.
How many Canadian dollars is a schmoogle?
I mean, in this mythical situation that I'm creating, let's say it's far in the future, so it's 1 million. They're equivalent. The 1 million.
Oh, okay.
Also 1 million schmoogles.
Yeah.
As it stands, I don't know, like 1/100th of a cent. Let's go with that.
The Canadian dollar we get some new prime minister that's like, they're called schmoogles now. That's what we do here.
His name's
Also,
Prime Minister Schmoogle. They're called schmoogle butts.
Also, weed is double legal.
Yeah,
so
you have to smoke it.
And everybody's like, yay!
Mandatory.
Mandatory weed and mandatory abortions.
You have to do a drug test at the beginning of the day, every day at work.
To make sure you're on drugs.
They give it to you. They administer it to you.
If you don't test hot for weed, then you're double fired.
You have to go into like one of those clean chambers, like when you go into a lab, but it just like sprays a bunch of pot smoke at you. Yeah.
Yeah, they just hotbox you right in the office.
I mean, work would be more entertaining, I guess.
It's true, unless you like have crippling anxiety when you're stoned, which
like
lots of people do.
Also,
or you're like a pilot or something.
That's true.
Yeah. Your shit froze at like the best time just now for like a second, where your eyes were like, that was great. Your tongue was not out. Also, shout out to White Bat Audio, who provides the pre-show music for us each and every week against their will. They don't know that we do it, but I like to shout them out because that's what they want.
That page is getting really big, though, too. So I don't know. I'm scared that they're going to make all of their stuff not free anymore. We'll see. It might be that he just starts charging, because he has like a membership YouTube page now, so you can like pay to be a member of and you get like stuff early and things like that. As far as I can tell, he still puts everything up for free. But there just might be a time where you can't, and then you'll eventually get to.
Well, we'll just steal from somebody else at that point.
We're not stealing. He's giving it away for free. We're utilizing it.
We'll utilize it from somebody else.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. And with that, we're going to talk about the director. It's time for director's talk.
Well, The Edge. We need to talk about The Edge for just a moment, like what it is, But not a lot of people have seen this movie. It's weird. It's one of those movies that I thought everybody had seen.
I had never seen it.
And I remember
I'd never heard of it.
Like my friend Spencer, we all know Spencer, but for those out there, he's a friend of all of ours. And well into our 20s, I was like, oh, we should watch The Edge. And he was like, what's The Edge? And I was just like, what? And I'd known Spencer for years at this point. I was like, what do you mean? You don't know what The Edge is? That's when I started to realize that this was maybe more of a niche film than I thought it was. And I guess it's because it kind of got lost in the fray of this genre, right? Like this time of the 90s, there were so many isolation movies and movies where people were lost in the wilderness. And I guess it just kind of got, lost in the fray of like blockbuster rentals where people are like, do I want to watch Castaway, the one I've heard of, or The Edge, the one I've never heard of? Let's go with Castaway. But yeah, the movie is about it's a very simple story of people getting lost in the wilderness and having to fight a bear and escape. But yeah, with that, let's talk about the director.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit.
Sound. Speed. Action!
All right. So I just read that comment and it made me laugh.
Yeah. Got it. You are a bear.
I also forgot that like there's that whole thing going on social media right now about like, would you rather be in the forest with a bear or a man? I totally didn't even make that connection when I chose this movie. To be fair, I chose this movie well before that was happening.
You know what you should do for the actual thumbnail? Should change it to the question, and
Man
we'll
or
get
bear?
that. A bunch of incels will come in and be like, obviously you want to be stuck in the forest with a man because a bear would eat your face off of your face. And then
But the man is known murderer Alec Baldwin.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh god.
Oh god.
Oh, man, he has killed a person by accident.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely bad.
I
Yeah.
mean, a bear doesn't maliciously kill you.
That's true. It's doing it for food most of the time, or to protect its young.
I don't think we need to get into
So the
this.
director, Lee Tamahori. I don't know how to say his name correctly.
Tamahori, yeah, I would
Tamahori.
say.
I mean, he's a very well-known director in his work, but not necessarily by name. He's not like a household guy where you're like, oh yeah, that he's making another one. Lee's back. He's back with a banger. Yeah. It's and he's also made a ton of just like random things that you've probably heard of but never seen.
Yeah, like the sequel to Triple X State of the Union starring Ice Cube.
That movie is also kind of solid. Like he's not a bad director in any way. Like he's a competent director who makes sort of like middling performing movies that are good, and some of them are memorable and some of them aren't.
He directed Die Another Day and Along Came a Spider, which are like,
and who the fuck can forget Diamond Face from Die Another Day? The guy who got a bomb next to diamonds blew up and his face got covered in diamonds. And instead of him being like, yeah, remove them, he just left them in for a decade or something.
They're like, remember Golden Face? Well, it's me, Diamond Face.
And yeah, also the explosion changed his eyes to ice blue and removed all his hair for some reason. I don't know. Maybe that's an effect of having diamonds in your blood or something.
Which we'll be testing out live on the show tonight.
Oh, let's detonate a bomb by your face and see how great you look.
Yeah, that's true. I do have a bomb and diamonds right next to me. We could do this. But he also made a bunch of The Sopranos. He made Along Came a Spider, which is another very solid movie that is memorable if you've seen it, but it's also one of those ones where Morgan Freeman was in like 20 thrillers in the late 90s, and you can never really remember which one is the one you're thinking of. And then, a couple of things that I've never seen. I mean, he made
also
Next.
He looks like this.
Whoa.
He looks like he's from
I
the
choose the
first
bear
Triple
for
X
sure.
movie. Yeah.
This guy, he looks like he would ask you for a cigarette and then beat you up because you don't have one.
Yeah, and then skin you and make a jacket out of it. He clearly chose the bear, and then he won in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
You got a cigarette? No, I don't smoke. Well, fuck off.
He was probably Hopkins' stunt double for this and killed a real bear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my new headcanon. In fact,
I don't have a ton. I don't have a ton to say about him. I didn't do much research for it. I mostly was more interested in talking about the movie itself. But yeah, he seems like an intense dude. But I also kind of respect his body of work, and I respect his body of work in a weird lopsided way, where he's made some things. This movie in particular is very special to me, and I really love it. The rest of them that I have seen, not bad. Nothing about it. I'm like, ugh. I know people hate
any of the problems with the movies you said are not with what he did. Yeah.
It's and I think that like what for this movie, it doesn't have great reviews across the board. They're not bad reviews either. They're sort of, a little bit better than middle of the road. They're like, yeah, it's a good movie and you'll probably like it, but you don't really have much else to say about it.
I think that's fair.
I think I saw it at a very appropriate age where I wasn't terrified. I know there would have been a time in my life where watching this movie, I would have been shitting myself the entire time about the bear. Even after the bear dies, it gets scarier. I mean, it gets scarier as an adult, maybe. After they kill
I think that the suspense of them, like right before spoilers, right before they like impale the bear, the suspense of them stabbing the bear was scarier to me than like seeing Harold Perrineau getting mauled by the bear and like the actual gore. For some reason, you feel kind of bad for the bear at moments because you're like, it's just a bear trying to chill out, but then
it's just trying to eat you. Let it eat.
He's a man killer.
Yeah. Once it gets a taste of blood, it'll never want to eat another type of meat again. And all I could think of is like, how many people are out there? It's just like refusing to eat deer and stuff. It's like, no, I have to wait for a man.
We're also in bear country, but they only encounter one bear, and also this feels like a little bit like Jaws. They kind of treat the bear like Jaws a little bit, Bear Jaws. But we can talk about that in the body of the episode. So just before we leave director talk, do you have any information on like the money that the movie made?
Yeah. I always got information on that. Movie cost $30 million. It only made $43.3 million. But that is, I believe, just domestic. So I'm not sure about international. So it made its money back, but I'm not sure what the budgeting of, advertising and stuff was. But I mean, the director worked again, and everybody involved in terms of acting went on to work again. It's not like it killed anyone's career, except for maybe the guy who like played the pilot or something.
Or
Yeah,
bear.
and it killed.
Or the bear.
Well, the fun fact about the bear is another person. Oh, I forgot to mention this. I forgot to like write this down or something. But anyway, my friend Michelle, who got the movie correct. He was telling me about how he went to a friend's house to just like watch movies, and the friend had The Edge, and he sat down and they started watching The Edge. And then here, I'll read you what he said. If I can fucking, God damn it, I'm so unprepared this week. It's crazy. I'm just gonna talk for a second here and say words until I can pull this up,
I'm on the Bears IMDb.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Art the Bear has like he's got
He's
many
the bear
credits.
from 12
Art the Bear.
Monkeys.
He
That's
said,
awesome.
My buddy was a wildlife officer in Alberta and worked on set. They had to be there in case another bear showed up to fight Bart.
Wow.
And his friend told him all about that. His message was, this movie rules and people should watch it. And then he said, no, wait, say based on the current political climate, this movie has a bear in it, and as such should be extremely popular with women. Oops.
I mean, it is evidence to the answer to that question that you should choose the bear, because both of these men are terrible people. I guess it can be argued that Charles is not, but I think that Charles was. I mean, again, this is movie talk. Once we get past the director talk,
yeah, let's move into the body of the episode. We can talk about the bear and versus man.
Here comes the body of the bear.
Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
That's right, folks. It is now time for the body of the episode, the podcast portion of the podcast. I was thinking maybe I'll start cutting the beginning and end and just see if people like the episodes shorter when it's just talking about the movie. I probably won't do that.
Okay. I mean, we could just cut the segment where we, read a bunch of random stuff.
That's true. That's for the viewers who are here for the live. Anyway,
so the movie The Edge. This movie is very special to me. We didn't do our brief history, Jason, just so you know.
Oh shit! How did I skip that? Okay, let's run it back and let's do our brief histories.
I don't have a rewind sound effect, so let's just go.
A brief history.
That's so fun. I don't know. Do you know what it is? I'm not.
Maybe I should host
this week.
Shh, quiet. I'm hosting now.
No, I'm not drinking this week. So
all right, I'll host.
I'm all verklempt. It's a time-honored tradition to have our guest go first. So, Alex, why don't you give us your brief history for the movie The Edge?
Well, you guys messaged me and said you want to be on an episode with The Edge, and I thought sure. And then I Googled it so that I could pretend that I knew what it was. And then I watched it. It's a very brief history for me.
Yeah,
I had a lot
I don't
of
know
fun
why, but
looking
I felt
up Bart the Bear though.
Yeah, I felt that you would like this movie for some reason. I don't know why. I hope you did.
I did like it.
Okay, good.
Spoiler.
And out of the guests that I had lined up for this month, I thought that this might be one that you actually haven't seen, and that's the point of the show. My brief history is that I watched this at a cottage in the woods, so it was a perfect setting for having bear threats. I was scared, but I was more scared afterwards when I was thinking about the bear, not so much while I was watching the movie. But I watched this with my friend Matt, and I believe his dad was watching it with us, and his dad is one of those guys that can't help but to like spout knowledge that he like things that he knows while watching a movie. Which, you know, I've learned random facts from him that I probably wouldn't know over the course of my life. And I remember him being like Bart the Bear and like just talking about Bart the Bear the entire time. And like anytime Bart would show up, be like Bart the Bear, you know, Bart, and then he would like drop a couple.
That's the that's the bear from Homeward Bound.
Yeah, he would drop a couple of factoids about Bart the Bear. And I remember liking it a lot and then not seeing it again for a very long time until I got my first DVD player and it was on sale and I bought it and I watched it a ton. And I used to watch it fairly frequently. You know, I haven't seen it nearly as much as I've seen the other movies that I chose this month, but it does have a special place in my heart because it feels nice and warm when I'm watching it. It does give me the feeling of nostalgic 90s. But I had to stop watching it because a certain internet dildo said it was his favorite movie. And I was like, oh God, I need to stop watching this movie if this is this guy's favorite movie. What does that say about me?
Which internet?
It was Steven Crowder. Another Steven. Yeah, it was that prick. Anyway, so but you know, I come back around and I'm like, that doesn't mean that I'm bad. This movie's good. I don't abuse my spouse. Anyway,
I don't know.
allegedly.
Allegedly. I don't. That's crazy that it's his. Like, it kind of tracks that guy. That piece of shit, Steven Crowder.
I'm assuming that he probably takes all of the wrong things from this movie while watching it, as people of that mindset often do. People who make the argument that they'd rather meet a bear in the woods, for example, those type of people probably watch this movie for all the wrong reasons. Jason, what is your brief history on this movie?
Basically, I was a huge U2 fan growing up, and I really like the guitar stylings of The Edge. And I think that he's an underrated guitarist. And I basically watched a whole bunch of documentaries about U2 to get prepared for this. So, I hadn't seen it. I thought I hadn't heard of it, but watching it, I would like it jogged my memory or something for this movie existing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something I learned about myself through this and through movie titles and me being afraid of everything when I was a kid. And I think that movie titles hold a lot more weight than they should, because this movie could have been like Two Wacky Guys Fight a Bear or something. You'd be like, that's exactly what the movie is, but it's called The Edge, and it's got a bear on the cover, and fucking Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins looking solemn and fucking.
Well, it's like allegorical. It's metaphorical. It has many meanings, you know.
So, were you not scared of Silence of the Lambs as a kid because the title?
Definitely. Because that one has a picture of a woman's face and an upside down bee on it, so that's spooky imagery, or a moth, whatever. Oh, it's a bee in wrestling that but they parodied or they landed.
Oh, I thought you were maybe thinking of Candyman.
No, the Bray Wyatt character, his symbol is like an upside down bee. It's supposed to look like the Silence of the Lambs logo. But yes, you're right. It's a moth. Anyway, I watched it like yesterday for the first time and I enjoyed it. So my brief history is literally like me having my memory of this movie being jogged by watching it. Also, fun fact, I'm the same age as Alec Baldwin is in this film.
Wow.
Yeah, we're both 39. So
yeah, he looks like he's in his I assumed he was in his early 40s. He looks
like he's starting to look like contemporary Alec Baldwin in this movie.
Yeah. To me, this is kind of
like the thin-headed Beetlejuice Baldwin, you know?
No, yeah. The old
Beetle when his
Baldwin.
Head squares out.
Yeah, it's when he's turning into a block. Yeah, he went from like a spindly handsome noodle to a block man, similar like a Minecraft character. He's turning into a Minecraft character.
So much so that like when I got to a certain age, then I forgot that Alec Baldwin was in Beetlejuice because he looked so different, more modern than he did back in the early 90s.
I mean, some people that just happens to some people, but I don't know if it had anything to do with like drugs or anything. But
maybe he got his head stuck in a cubing machine.
A cubing machine, yeah. What's the sound effect when you get hurt in Minecraft? He's like, oh,
Ugh,
oh,
ugh, ugh.
as he's being cubed. But I think he looks good in this movie. I think Alec Baldwin is one of those people that is like devastatingly handsome. Since from Beetlejuice even to like now, he's still quite a handsome man. Even though
His eyes are unreal.
Yeah, even though he's kind of a monstrous being at times, I think he's also just sort of like passionate. So like he will leave a horrible voice message to his daughter, and he might shoot somebody on set by accident. But he seems like otherwise he might be all right.
Yeah. I'm not on set. What am I worried about?
Yeah,
I think about myself,
Trump
and I'm like,
impression.
I would probably be really nice to some people and really mean to others, and I don't know where the line is or how I would draw it. But
yeah, if you got famous, I'd have a ton of shit to say about you. Be like, oh yeah, he's a dick.
He's a fucking dick. Yeah, I used to know that guy. I was on his podcast 3 times, and then they stopped calling me after.
Trying to take it over. Yeah,
He shot me every time.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's our brief histories.
Yeah. Now
Well, I'm glad I could introduce you guys to this at least and jog your memory, Jason, because it is a movie that I really like. So I guess we'll go back to the body.
The body of the episode.
Can you hit a quick theory right away? I have a funny theory. I have a theory that the reason they say Charles so many times is there's an off-camera inside joke and they're making fun of him. That's the theory. It's not a deep theory, but there's no other film that I've ever seen where they say the name of the like main and protagonist like so much. Do you have any facts about why this?
It's not everybody. It's Alec Baldwin that is saying it a lot.
yeah.
And
even at the cabin, I feel like Mickey does it too.
Okay, well then think about this for a minute. In real life, when you talk to relationship experts and people who are like how to make friends and get ahead in the world or whatever, those types of self-help books and advice columns and things like that tell you if you want someone to like you, you say their name over and over and over again to them because people like hearing the sound of their own name. And this guy is a billionaire surrounded by regular people. So these people all want his attention and all want him to notice them and want him to like them. So to me, it makes sense. Like if I was around a billionaire and I really wanted the billionaire to like me, I would probably do the same thing to a certain degree. Not to the point that it's happening in this movie, but everybody says everybody's name a lot in this movie. And I don't know why that is. If it's just like it seemed like a based off a book thing where people do that in dialogue in books so you know who is talking without having to have a description beforehand. I'm not sure if this is adapted from a book, but it felt very novelized to me, or like overworked.
Maybe they're trying to get you to forget that you're watching Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins.
Right, yeah. So like
that maybe could be part of it, you know what I mean? Where it's like you got to just say their name so much that you're like, okay, that's Charles, that's not Hannibal Lecter.
You know, like I remember the 3 characters who survived the plane crash. I remember all their names very clearly, even years and years later, because of the fact that they're saying the name.
Well, one of them is your name, so that's cheating.
Yeah, I cheated there,
any non-cheaters? No.
I mean, yeah, that's true. Very true. To the point that like years later, when I saw him in Lost, I was like, "Hey, that's Steven from The Edge."
Yeah.
Can I show you something? I found I found a supercut of him saying Charles. Do you want to watch that?
Okay.
Super duper cut.
Is it Alec Baldwin saying it? Yeah. It's a minute and 41 seconds.
Champagne for Charles. Blow out the candle, Charles.
Charles.
Oh, Charles, we're going on an impromptu adventure. What do you say, Charles?
What do you say, Charles?
Can I tell you something, Charles? I know how a compass works, Charles.
That doesn't feel south, Charles. Charles.
Well, I don't want to kill you, Charles. Charles, baby. No offense, Charles.
Charles, baby.
I don't want to antagonize you, Charles. You know something, Charles?
You got it, Charles. Hold on, Charles. Charles, snap out of it, Charles. Get over it, Charles.
Charles, you know you're starting to loosen up.
Charles. Charles. Charles, stay back. Charles, stay back. I don't want to know how, Charles.
I'm not in a very humorous mood, Charles. What are we going to do, Charles? What are we going to do, Charles? What are we going to use to bait him, Charles? No, Charles. I don't know, Charles.
I don't think it'll work, Charles. You can't kill the bear, Charles. Charles.
I don't know why I'm surprised by hearing
Charlie. I
Charles.
certainly think this qualifies.
Oh, he called him Charlie.
Called personal growth. Hell of an adventure, eh, Charles? You know that you don't, Charles. Say it was tough luck, Charles. Come on, Charles. Come on, Charles. Why is that so important to you, Charles? Charles. Turn your back, Charles. Don't go any further, Charles. Life is a short thing, Charles. Charles, don't! Oh, God, Charles! Oh, God!
Oh God, Charles, oh God.
Charles. Oh, God, Charles. Oh, God, Charles, no. I don't feel very well, Charles. Charles, what is it? What is it,
I can't
Charles?
say I feel very well at all, Charles.
Hell of a way to end an outing, eh, Charles? I don't really feel quite 100%, Charles.
I'll be fine, eh, Charles?
This guy who tried to kill you, that's
This
terrific.
is also like the
What were you
perfect
doing
summary
with
of the
pen,
movie.
Charles?
It
I
is,
feel
yeah.
sorry for you, Charles. Charles, I gotta tell you, Charles, and your wife, Charles. Listen to me, Charles. I swear it on my life,
It
Charles.
sounds like he's
Charles.
drunk, and this is
Never
all in
too
one
late for a
like
kind gesture, eh,
conversation.
Charles?
That was good.
Wow.
I did not realize it was that many times. Like, there's a few there where he's saying it twice in one sentence. Like, he'll start a sentence with Charles.
Charles, I'm
end
not
it with
feeling 100%, Charles.
Yeah, I can't.
Charles, oh God, Charles.
Hit
Hit him with one Charlie, no Chucks.
Yeah.
Nope.
Calls him Charlie a lot. I had a friend in university named Charles, and I would do that to him
Oh,
because
it
of
must
this
have been
movie.
so annoying for him.
I was probably very annoying to him, yeah, but he still liked me. Except when I called him Chucky. He didn't like that.
You're not gonna hit us with the Chucky laugh? There you go.
Well, that actually was a very good summary of the movie. He says it so many times that it hits every beat of the movie.
Yeah, like that's our show for this week. You pretty much saw it. We got to watch
Charles,
the whole
you've
movie.
fallen into a river, Charles.
Yeah. Charles, get off that log. Charles, why do I need to bury these rags, Charles? Charles, Steven stabbed himself, Charles.
That part where he's in the pit and he's like, oh, Charles, oh God, oh, Charles,
Charles, my leg has been impaled, Charles. I think my leg is broken, Charles.
Yeah, I'm not feeling 100% here, Charles.
What is that, Charles? Is that a helicopter, Charles, coming to get us? It is.
I'm glad I found that, man. StreamYard's so good. You can just do so many things on the fly, like show the edge.
Oh God. Get him out of here.
Get him out of here. We don't like the U2s around here. This movie opens up with some pretty good iconography of just like them flying to
excellent
where they're
score,
going.
excellent cinematography, a really good kind of like showing how isolated it is. It's all like almost like Lord of the Rings-esque landscapes with, you know, snow-capped peaks and thick forests, lots of lakes, and you really get the sense of isolation, which is perfect.
Yeah, and you get that guy kind of chasing behind him as they get onto the plane at the start. That's like, don't fly too low, don't fly into birds. You know, and then what do? Of course, they
don't
fly
crash.
Don't crash.
Yeah, don't crash into a river.
Whatever you do, Charles, do not fight a bear. I'm asking you now.
His name is Charles Morse. And the plane is called the Amphibian, and they keep alluding to the fact that the plane costs $1 million. And throughout this movie, there's this sentiment that's like, don't trust anybody that owns a plane, which is pretty good.
Don't feel sorry for anyone who.
Don't feel sorry. The thing that I love, though, is we don't really have a backstory about Anthony Hopkins' character, and he seems.
I don't think
like
we need it though. I think it's nice that like we get what we get, and all we really know about him is that he has more money than anybody else and potentially one of the richest people on the planet. And he has this ability to retain anything that he reads. So
that's true.
Yeah, he seemed kind of like almost on the spectrum.
Oh, he definitely is. Like, if you can read something and retain it to that degree where he's just, you know, walks into a cabin and somebody asks him a random question about a paddle and you can have that kind of memory recall. That's sort of like the 90s version of like, this is what somebody with autism looks like. They have superpowers. They can remember everything.
You're either Rain Man or you're Charles.
Yeah, you're Charles.
Yeah. What's interesting about billionaires in movies, this isn't true in real life, but I got the image that he's a self-made billionaire somehow because of his ability to you know, have a photographic intellect or whatever it is. They never really.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem like a
say it.
Eidetic or photographic memory. It just seems like it's
like you just know. He just retains knowledge.
Well, you know, like I used to work with like people with special needs, and like there were certain kids that would like have the ability to make a list of like 1,000 things, and you could ask them anything on that list and they would know what it was. You know, like there was this one kid
Yeah.
that had like his 100 favorite cartoon shows. You could ask him whatever number it was and he would be able to tell you exactly what it was.
I wasn't even like I didn't even really realize that till I was watching this though, that like in real life billionaires are basically not self-made, but in movies it's always like a billionaire has some like special
Your
power.
Tony Stark or your
clearly.
But
well,
even Tony Stark
is
Well, I mean,
nepo,
Tony Stark's not
baby,
self-made,
for
but
sure.
he seems like he is worthy of it in a sense. Like he is a genius who does elevate things or whatever.
Yeah, and also has sort of like spectrumy behavior, which is like makes him more interesting and more relatable in a certain way. Even though it's like alienating to him, you're like, oh, these are things like sort of like idiosyncrasies that everybody has something, right? This guy, though, you don't get enough information about him to be able to zero in on those things. Only that he's able. But at one point, he's like, "I seem to be able to retain these useless facts, but never have any way to put them into practice." And I'm like, "You definitely use that power to make your $1 billion, dude."
Exactly.
Like, you're telling me you didn't walk into a courtroom and like somehow be able to work the system based on you reading like every law book ever and retaining all the information that exists in there? Yeah.
They also have this funny thing that's like, we have to be back by 8 p.m. tomorrow night. But even when they first get to the cabin, they're immediately like, we have to go to this next place. And when they get to that place, they're like, we have to go to this next place.
No, the reason that they need to get back is because they want the sunlight so that they can shoot. So they're trying to get back before the sun sets, specifically so that they can film that day. They're like on a tight schedule, I guess. Even though it's like, this guy's a fucking billionaire. Like, I'm sure he can make a couple of phone calls and be like, give us a week.
Hang out there for a few days. And it's crazy too, because, we'll get to it in a minute, but what they're photographing isn't the best thing ever.
No, it's considered racist.
Yeah.
Even back then, it would probably be considered some level of racism would be.
Not in the late 90s. There was a big, like, native culture kick, like a lot of like jean jackets of white guys with like long hair.
Yeah, that's true.
Smoking darts with like howling wolves on the back of their jean jacket kind of thing,
yeah.
Or like having a lot of wolf imagery.
Here's a question for you guys: is 3 Wolf Moon insensitive? The shirt, the 3 Wolf Moon shirt.
No,
I don't think so, and I've never seen any indigenous creators saying that it is. If it is, then feel free to share with us. But
sound off in the comments below. But they do get to the cabin. There's the stereotypical old grizzled man with the scar on his face. I thought he was gonna have more to do with the story. He didn't really. He was just sort of a soothsayer, person who sort of warns them about the forest.
But he's also, I mean, you kind of get the idea of who he is based on where he is, how he talks, what he said, what he's saying, and his scar. Yeah, his visual appearance is that of a man who has maybe been attacked by a bear himself, or maybe he just had a terrible boating accident or something.
Yeah, or got drunk and fell down the stairs at his cabin. Or
his weird half spiral staircase that's probably all uneven and shit because he built it himself.
Yeah.
Who needs a level?
Well, he talks about the possibility of the bear. He says they point out that picture of his friend that they're going to go see. He's like, I took the photo, he took the bear.
Well, it's like a great sort of comedic moment too, where Alec, you see just how much of a self-centered prick Alec Baldwin is right away, because he thinks that he knows everything, and he makes this big deal of saying like, you've got to go back almost 100 years to the late 19th century to be able to take a photo like that. And what does he call it? He says like not an unsentimental, but like a photo where people are not being aware of themselves being.
Yeah, like a candid photo.
Yeah. And then he's like, when was this photo taken? He's like, I took it a week ago. Like,
yeah.
Or he took it last year.
Yeah.
That's
a live stream to that guy right now.
He's like waving. It's just kind of like a good. It shows just how sort of like superficial Alec Baldwin is, and like how he thinks he knows everything about the world, but he's also clearly, just has his own perspective, and it's so far removed from this world of being isolated in the middle of, I assume, Alaska. Do they say? I don't really know.
It is Alaska. It's never ever met. I didn't know until when the movie finished and then it went back to like the title card for it on Disney Plus, and it's like 2 enemies stranded in Alaska.
Right. I think maybe they didn't mention it just so you don't have a clear sort of geographical location. But for some reason, any movies starring Americans made in Hollywood, it's always Alaska. It's never set in Canada. They're like, we can't set it in Canada. No one will go see it.
Yeah.
We have to set it in Alaska.
I also felt, I'm just realizing this now, that like they kind of reminded me of Locke and Jack from Lost a little bit.
Maybe that's just because one of the characters from Lost is literally with them.
Literally in this. But I wasn't thinking of that throughout the movie. I just realized right now, because I really wanted to see them have like a final battle fist fight or a struggle, but really just outsmarts him into falling into a hole, which we'll get to, of course.
I don't know. I mean, I can see where you're coming from based on like age and even appearance. They do have sort of like a similar sort of like, this guy's gray and slightly balding and this guy's all dark haired and handsome. And yeah, I can see that visually and just like the age gap. But
Hopkins is looking pretty good in this one too, though.
He is, yeah. Especially you look back to Silence of the Lambs years before this, and he looks just like a slimy, horrifying monster man.
Yeah.
And in this, you're like, oh, I would watch a movie with this man's arm around me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he felt
the poster.
I think that was the point, right? He's meant to be the kindest man.
That's why they have to say Charles so much.
Yeah, the billionaire with a heart of gold, where he would do anything for those he cares about, but he cares about so few people that he doesn't really need to do anything. But then we see that he's also willing to save a guy who's fucking cucking his wife and trying to kill him to take his $1 billion, and he still saves
Is that
him.
how it works?
That is.
I guess it would all go to the wife, right?
Yeah. He would have come back and made up a big story about like, he saved my life, and then
have to make
I
up
saved
much of a
his
story.
That's true. He would just have to leave out the part that he shot him in the back.
It would be a lot more questionable to explain how Steve died honestly.
That's true.
But I guess we can get to that.
He was making a spear, and then he accidentally slid
cut
open
his own
thigh.
leg off, pretty much. Yeah.
We killed that guy. It was pretty funny. The thing that I thought was interesting about this next sequence is that like everybody has seemingly just gone to bed, and Mickey is like, the wife is like, I know you love me, will you make me a sandwich?
You make the best sandwiches, Charles.
And we get this great, like, after he's been like spooked by the old grizzled man about the bear, he goes down to the kitchen, he's making the sandwich. There's a giant ham right adjacent to a door that's like ajar in the middle.
They did that
of
on purpose. It's part of the prank.
Do you think it is? Because the next thing
because the man said like, don't leave any food uncovered.
Yeah, and then they leave the door open.
He also says the doors don't lock. They left the door.
Is everybody trying to kill Charles? Because this is harder.
They were all in on it. It was a prank.
That's another. Yeah, I wonder even how legit the first warning about the bear is. Like maybe there's not bears around there, and they're just like, don't like. Are they just setting up the prank?
I think that it seems very realistic that they like let the guy know ahead of time. Like, can you make sure that you like drop some freaky bear facts, and then we're gonna like scare him later, because they know that he's gonna hear this information and retain it and be thinking about it. And if he sees the uncovered meat, he'll be like, "Oh, those motherfuckers didn't cover up the meat like they were told to."
They leave the rickety door open.
And they also left the door open. Oh God, I'm gonna close this door now.
And then he walks into the other room, and the lights come on, and there's a giant bear attacking him, which is clearly like a bear rug thing, but he doesn't know that. He thinks it's a bear. And they all flip the lights on. They're like, "Surprise! Happy birthday!"
And he's like having a mild heart attack.
60, yeah. I'd have been more scared of Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
I mean, he was dressed as the bear. That would be the worst. imagine you chose the bear in the scenario of man or bear, and then the bear turns up and it's Alec Baldwin wearing a bear costume.
Don't worry, it's not loaded.
Yeah, later when he's like,
"Oh shit,
I
thought it wasn't loaded.
How are you going to kill me?" You should be like, "I already tried with that bear prank. You're supposed to die last night."
That was his dry run.
Yeah.
We should also we should mention that was to see.
Maybe I can do this without luring him into the woods.
Yeah. Can I kill him by just scaring him to death? We should talk about the moment where we get the first sort of example of his ability to have like very crystal clear memory recall, which is you know, his wife says Charles knows everything. Go ahead, ask him a question. He'll most likely know the answer. And the man who lives in this beautiful cabin in the middle of nowhere says, "Okay, I got a question for you. I will give you $5 fucking if you can tell me what's on the backside of this here blade." And he pulls down a paddle that has a picture of a panther on it, and he says exactly what's on the other side, which is a rabbit smoking a pipe.
Rabbit smoking a pipe. Yeah.
And not only does he just know the answer, but he knows why the answer is the answer. So it's like, you know, he's clearly read a book that about the particular tribe in that region. He probably read a bunch of books on the area before he went there, right? Because it's also established moments later by his wife that he's always reading a book. And he was even given a book on how to survive in the wilderness by his secretary before he left, which is why he's able to do all the things that he does in this movie. But they do a good job of setting those things up, which a lot of movies, they'll just tell you like, yeah, this motherfucker knows everything. And it's like, okay, but why and how? And give me an example. And they do a good job of setting it all up. And they don't make a big deal about it afterwards. Like, people aren't constantly asking him like, how the fuck do you know that? He's just like, listen to me.
It's just kind of there. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the information. I read the book. We're good. I can make a needle from a piece of silk and a leaf or whatever.
I'm glad I'm not in the woods with you trying to survive.
Yeah.
I just noticed something about Mickey. Charles last
Listen, I know how to build a decent fire. That match, when they fail to make the fire, that wouldn't have happened if I was on the island with them.
Charles' last name is Morse, and his wife's name is Mickey. So her name is,
Mickey
say it
Morse.
with me now,
Yeah.
Mickey Morse. I just clicked over to the IMDb and I was like, ooh, Elle Macpherson, Mickey Morse. That's ridiculous. That ties into the bunny smoking a pipe, though, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mickey Morse is a bunny, right?
Yeah.
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 Walt Disney's Mickey Morse.
Mickey Morose.
Anyway,
Mickey greets him with
I just wanted to not
pocket watch.
Is there time for a quick costume change?
Yeah. Oh shit, he's got the bunny on deck.
I just wanted to get that one out because I think it's important for the establishment of his character. But we then get like this nice moment of them exchanging gifts. But we've also seen him staring at Baldwin a lot. You know, like they're having this nice chit chat in the plane on the way there, and he's talking about how he just got a new watch, and then he's given a new watch for his birthday. But even before that, when his wife says like, think I'm gonna go to bed after the, you know, bears will fucking eat your guts while you're alive or whatever.
Especially if you leave a whole ham out.
Yeah.
And the door's open.
But Alec Baldwin goes up and whispers something into her ear, and he sees it. And in my notes, I wrote, "These two fucking," and then I'm like, what did Bob say? What did Bob say into her ear? And for me, if I was already suspicious of my wife banging Alec Baldwin, I would assume he said something like, "I'll be up in a minute," or like some sort of like flirtatious bullshit, because she gives him like a "get the fuck out of here" kind of push. But then after the prank goes off, he can then now relax and assume like, oh, he was probably saying like, don't forget to ask for a sandwich. You know, we're gonna prank the shit out of this old fuck. And he can relax a little bit, you know. And then again, we get another example of him being able to have perfect memory recall, where the guy's like, "Give him a fucking coin, give him a coin," and he's like, "Oh yes, if you don't give a coin to the man who gave you a knife, it cuts the friendship in half, and that's not good." And Bob is like,
Maybe
"All right,
should have given
Charles,
him
you
2 coins."
psycho." Yeah, exactly. Give him a bunch of coins. And then they all go to bed.
There is also like literally the next day when they're out on the balcony, and like you said, Charles is still watching Alec Baldwin and Elle Macpherson.
Yeah, there's like
this ballsy motherfucker gives her a little smooch on the cheek while he's taking pictures of her too.
That was a bit much.
Yeah,
and that's where I was like, oh.
But she also like she sees him see that happen, and she
they knew he was there. It wasn't like
yeah.
It wasn't like he walked into the kitchen and it was
and I mean,
mommy kissing Santa Claus. It was like, you know what I mean, right in front of him.
Yeah, and this is also one of those things where it's like he's probably been around them before. He's probably
He's
seen them.
photographing, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like it's maybe, is it like a city thing? You know what I mean? It's like he's some like
But I also
hot
feel
shot
like-
photographer from New
Yeah.
York or something.
And I feel like he's
Well,
even, you know,
he's definitely
older.
done cocaine off of her hips,
Hip
as we
bone.
hear later.
All right. What I'm curious about is like, how often does this happen? Is he confused by it? You know, he's older than them by quite a bit, so he's like, well, I guess this is just how the younger generation.
Well, he might have
interacts.
read a book about someone else having sex with his wife once, and he's recognizing the signs.
Right. He's like top 10 signs you're being cucked. Jeez.
She's dressed like an insensitive indigenous.
It's very
caricature.
It's very.
She has an arrow in her fucking hair.
Okay, it's very like slutty Halloween costume.
Yes. Yeah.
Pocahontas.
Yeah.
It's that kind of like level of like yeesh.
They had
Perfectly
to go all the way to
square, like-
Alaska to take those pictures. Like, you could have just.
They
went
really
to, like,
didn't, yeah.
some lake in like Idaho or something.
But I mean, when your model is married to a billionaire who can fly
Yeah,
you anywhere,
I
then
guess
I
so.
guess why not?
Well, I can tell you why not. It's the remaining,
The next-
57 movies of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, the majority of the next 2/3 of the movie.
Can you explain something to me that I didn't really get from their explanation here? Why
His
does
name was Charles.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Why do they want to go to the second location? They just need this guy.
They want the
picture.
the guy because
That's why they go to the first location, is to get the
they
guy.
go to no. They went. They were waiting for another model, but he wasn't coming. Right. They were
the model is sick, and he's like trying to get better or whatever upstairs. And Steven says like, he's too sick, Bob. He can't film. Like, we can't do it.
Right.
He's like, well, how sick is he? And he says something like, he'd have to get better to die, which I never really understood.
Okay.
Which I'm like, what does that mean? Does
that means
dying?
he's like so sick that it's
Right.
Yeah, that's just. Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I was like, he's dying? Like, shouldn't they be more concerned about this man who's dying upstairs? Or is he probably just has like a bad flu or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they go to find the man from the photograph.
He saw the costume he had to wear and was like, "Oh, I don't feel good."
Oh, I'm just so
racist.
sick.
Yeah,
Just the whitest
your
guy
face
ever.
paint, and it's just like shoe polish. He's like, I don't think so.
Paint up your lips real white too.
Yeah.
So I thought it was funny that. So what I thought was going to happen, they have to go 80 miles. I thought they were going to like walk there. I forgot about the plane
That would take
immediately.
a long time, yeah.
It would.
Yeah.
But they fly to that next location.
Well,
The guy
and Charles initially doesn't really want to go. It's just that he gets kind of like he gets offered a business proposition in a spot that he didn't think he was going to get one, and
that's what I was going to say. Like the guy talks to him like a buddy because they've had that moment about like the paddle, and the second they sit down and you see Charles' face change here, he's like, I've wanted to develop this area for a long time. I just need an investor. And you see Charles' face go from like, oh, interesting, to everybody wants something from me because I'm a billionaire, which I thought was
like he has a good idea. He took the opportunity. You got to shoot your shot, kind of thing. But
maybe
he
had drawings, like
good
he
ones
wasn't
too.
like just ambushing. Like he was just like he had a plan to make this, and a billionaire showed up. It's not like he.
If I were him,
and was like, "Hey, Charles,"
and I knew they were going to be there for like a couple of days, I would have finessed him over the couple of days.
Yeah.
I would have got him drunk a couple
yeah.
times, and I would have mentioned the idea. I've been thinking about trying to renovate this place and like make it into like a real sort of touristy
It's
attraction.
just such a shame I don't have 30 or 40 million.
Yeah, it'd be all I need is like 30, maybe $40 million. If only somebody had that lying around.
Put that away.
And then when Charles expresses interest, that's when you bring the drawings out. Jeez, this guy's an amateur. I mean, he does live in the middle of nowhere, and I guess gets attacked by bears often enough that he has bear scars on his face.
On a table or something, and when Charles looks, oh, I see you noticed my plans.
Yeah, and he's like, these are some sort of resort. Interesting.
When they get to that next place, though, the guy's not there, and they're like, oh yeah, he's just at like a next cabin. And they're like, they look at each other like, maybe we shouldn't, but let's.
Well, there's a
do
note
it.
on the door that explains like, I'm not here. I'm over at this other area hunting for bears. And then we also get
the length
just before that, like, it for 40 or million schmoogles, all I need is 40 million schmoogles. And
it doesn't take place in Canada, Steve. It's Alaska.
Right. But he's reading the book that he got from his secretary, which is like survival tips and tricks and like how to, but it's clearly like a very old book that has like old ways of doing things. But he's learning about the deadfalls in the book. And in the next scene, as they land, he finds a deadfall and he's like, I literally just read about this. like okay, this is the kind of movie we're in for here. Is like we're gonna get some telegraphing, but we're not gonna have too much of it that it's annoying. It's just gonna be like, oh cool, he's learned about this thing now.
That was really good.
But it comes back multiple times throughout the movie, which is like really good.
Yeah, it's good because early they establish, okay, he remembers everything he reads and he has a book about surviving. So then they don't have to bring that up ever again. And then anytime he does something, you're like, oh, he read it in his book.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a hand wave where you just believe it, you know what I mean? You just believe it the whole time.
Yeah.
But they do it in a way that like you forget about the stuff until it happens. I really like how we have this long explanation of what a deadfall is, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then when the moment is happening near the end of the third act, it's like, oh, I see what's going to happen. And then of course, what happens, right? I liked that.
I like that the explanation of what a bear pit is. Like you see him reading it, they don't say it, but you see the deadfall, and it shows a picture of it in the book, and then later he explains what a deadfall is, and he explains it in enough detail for us, the audience, but he's also explaining it to two people who don't know what it is in the movie. And then, he explains it just to Alec Baldwin, and then Steven comes up and he's like, what's that? And Alec Baldwin's like, it's a pit, it's a bear pit, let's get the fuck out of here.
I have a question. When do they say Steven's name? Because I am usually good at names.
From as soon as they get in the woods, I feel like Anthony
said a
Hopkins
lot,
calls him Steven.
I didn't hear them say Steven once. Somehow.
Except when he's injured, he calls him Steve. He's like, listen, Steve, you need to calm down, Steve. I think it's because he hears Alec Baldwin calling him Steve, so he's like, oh, this is what he prefers to be called. I have to call him.
I just heard Charles so many times that every other name was just
everyone's named Charles to you. In a survival situation,
they definitely say Steven a lot.
They do. They say it enough that I remembered it my entire life. But it's also my life.
It's also your name.
Yeah.
It's true. Listen, I'm not named after a famous hockey masked serial killer, so I don't have a lot of characters that pop up in movies with my name. I guess in Captain America and Doctor Strange both have my name, but no one ever really calls them
Steven America.
Yeah.
They get onto the plane to go to the final location, and everything's going fine. I think they might be flying a little low. And right as a tragedy strikes, Charles says, so how are you planning to kill me? Not joking. Yeah. And we don't get a chance.
There's a contextual
from Bob.
There's a contextual conversation that leads up to that, which is that he's already suspicious and he's a little bit perturbed at the closeness of his wife with this guy, and he already has his suspicions. But then Alec Baldwin is kind of pressing him to be like, we don't know each other that well. Like, he's trying to just open up to him a little bit, and then they have a little bit of a personal conversation, and it pushes too hard to the point that he then makes a snide remark of like, well, I tell you, you got style, you're fucking cool as hell, and I also want to fuck your wife. He doesn't say that, but he says like, I think your wife's pretty cute or something like that. And then
there was also a moment at the very beginning of the movie that sort of telegraphs all of this, where the plane mechanic is like, wow, she's a real beaut, after they show Elle Macpherson. But then he's like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm very protective of my wife. Obviously, he's like, your plane's a real beaut. So
what he says is, I'd like to get inside of her. And then he says, what? And the guy's like, the plane. It's one of the coolest planes
I
want to
have sex with that plane.
I want to fuck that plane. The amphibian.
Yeah.
I hope that plane's married.
I can only get off if that plane's married.
Yeah.
How are you planning to kill me? And then
I think we brought this up in the Castaway episode. How are you planning to kill me? Perfect sort of like tension built, snapped out of it by the pilot going, "Oh fuck!" It's like,
bird. That pilot was definitely not grace under pressure. Like
I
don't
he also had he got hit by the carcass of
he
a
got the Fabio
goose.
treatment, but
yeah.
But I would just remember just thinking like I feel like the pilot almost has like a duty to be like, it's okay, we're gonna figure, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like telling people what to do in that situation. He's just like literally just like, oh fuck, oh god, yeah, fuck. You know what I mean? Like
Listen,
there's no way any of us are gonna survive this.
If the top,
we're all dead.
Like,
Everybody
top,
say your prayers.
If the top few layers of my skin was pierced by glass, goose feathers, and like bird bones,
and covered
I'd
in
blood.
probably be freaking out.
He was covered in blood.
A 3-beak situation here.
Yeah, he's got a beak in his eye. He's like, oh, there's a beak in my eye. Fuck.
It's like, oh, I remembered the 3 things that he told me not to do, but I forgot the 4th one.
Don't get a beak.
Don't
in
fly
your
into geese.
Yeah, but also the hole in the windshield is only where he is, so no one else got hit by it. So I've always like theorized that like this guy was already dying, like he got hit by goose bones that are like he's dying on the way down, and he's probably.
I thought one of the geese might have been Alec Baldwin in a goose costume.
Right. But I brought this crash up on our Castaway episode. We had a segment which was not named anything. It was just like, do you have any like favorite plane crashes in movies or plane crashes that have resonated for you since you saw them? And mine were, Castaway, this movie, and BioShock. Those were like the 3 plane crashes that like really
The Mummy,
stick
man.
out in my mind. The Mummy. I don't think the Mummy was mentioned on our Castaway.
The plane
episode.
sinks with the old
guy
World War I pilot. Like, I can't even like simulate that many neck.
He has
levels,
too much neck for any of us, I think. Yeah.
I think Lost is pretty good.
I think Lost
was pretty good. And the plane crash, I think we talked about the plane crash in the forest, which was memed to death, but it's also like you're in a first person mode for the plane like breaking in half, which was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, The Mummy, yeah, that's a good one. I kind of want to, like, anytime we do a plane crash movie, bring it up again just to see what the guests have to say, because I like The Mummy. I never thought about that one. And that one's like very epic, right? Like there's like a long chase sequence where the mummy himself is like a giant
and they fly
of
through the
sand,
mouth
like,
and stuff.
Yeah.
Made the trailer.
Oh, right, yeah. And then we get, so I also like kind of include like the aftermath of the plane crash, which I guess that's what that would be.
Like the war in Iraq.
Right, yeah. Let's bring that up.
The underwater moments in this part were really good. Like Alec Baldwin swimming, I was just captivated by like, how did they, like that wasn't a stunt double. He just had to do that.
It's like a tank of water, yeah. Like they
obviously. And there was probably a guy with like a mask off camera to like give him.
Well, he has a lot of oxygen in this square head. He's able to, he's not holding it in like the rest of us.
He also has square lungs, which in terms of like
surface area,
cubic air per inch
larger.
Yeah,
it's a medical anomaly.
Yeah.
That
Baldwin
sequence is good though.
He just leaves, right? And then
he tries to save the pilot for like a second. I think he realizes he's dead, but I took it as like, well, can't do anything here, and just bounces.
That's what he did.
I'm not going to be dying.
I can't really fault him for that because it's a horrifying
that's every
situation.
man for himself. It's not, that doesn't necessarily paint him in a negative light, but it does paint Charles in a positive light.
Yes,
in that he's like, oh, like,
I've got to save
Steve's too stupid to use his seatbelt, so I got to cut him out.
He
like,
does really
pulling on it.
But I mean, so if Steve is not familiar with that type of seatbelt, I could see, because that is a weird seatbelt, right? Like,
and you're also underwater after a plane crash.
Exactly.
The bear was terrifying. Oh, it's just a costume. It's okay. It's just a onesie. Don't be scared, Dave.
Yeah.
Bart the Bear.
Yeah.
Here on our show tonight. I can't believe we got him. He's a big star.
Hi, I'm Bart.
The Bear's, Bart the Bear's still alive. Probably not, right? Bear, how long does a bear live?
I don't think Bart the Bear
don't do the math on how old that movie is either.
Yeah.
He died in 2000, but he was born in 1977.
There you go.
30-year-old boar.
30-year-old or
30-year-old boar.
you guys
So
want to watch this
Died at the age
8-minute
of 23.
You
But
guys
I
want to
do
watch
think-
this 8 video I found called "The Legacy of Bart the Bear"?
I do think that Alex, you're absolutely right. That the moment is not necessarily meant to paint Alec Baldwin in a poor light.
Alex Baldwin.
Bob. I'm just gonna call him Bob from now on. In a bad light, but it is meant to show that Charles is going to help if he can.
Like,
and
who
that
is Steve?
Steve is Bob's assistant, so he does everything in turn. He'll change the reel and the camera. He does like the lighting, and remember he's yelling at him for the shoes. He's like, "Get the fucking shoe polish," and he's like,
like
you know,
use
you
the
can
inside
use
of a banana.
You can use the
You
inside
put it
of a
all over
banana
the
peel
face
to-
of the. You put it all over the face
I
of
heard
the
he
other.
used all the
The
shoe
other.
polish to black up the model.
Jesus. So he saves Steve, pulls him out. Everyone's safe except the pilot, who's like clearly already dead. Like no one's alive. Underwater, like, and I think it was like a fake corpse at that point, right? Like it was like a rubber man. Like just to give that extra.
Yeah, I don't think
hope
that
to
they
the
drowned
audience.
the actor for
This
the movie.
guy's dead. Yeah. He gets to use his knife for the first time. But that knife comes in such handy. If they didn't have that knife, man, I don't think they would have survived. Like,
well, with one notable exception, Steve,
What?
who cuts his leg off with.
Steve cuts his own leg. And then
I don't think that
10 minutes
any
later.
of them would have survived. I mean, at
You're
the
under
end
a lot
of the day,
stress, Steve.
only
Play
one
with
of them
this
died.
knife.
Yeah,
Go
That
over
is
there and
the
play with this knife alone.
That moment, I'm like, what? How do you do that? Like, how did he do that? Was he like, I could
Trying
not
to put it on a stick to go fishing or something?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
he was
thought the leg
trying to
was a
fix
fish.
it. He was trying to affix it to a stick, and somehow it ended up in his leg. Or
No, he
like,
put it between his
slicing
teeth,
his-
and then he went to go tie his shoes, and he just like stabbed
Yeah.
himself in the thigh.
It makes no sense.
It's not even
but
like he was whittling. If he was whittling, I could be like,
Maybe, yeah.
into
Maybe
the leg.
he got stuck on a knot or something, and it like went too
Yeah,
fast.
yeah.
But I mean, I guess use your fucking imagination to figure that one out. But it bugs me, but it's meant to push. the
It's a
plot
catalyst for
yeah. We need it. I do.
It's a little bit foreshadowy for Alec Baldwin's leg later too, I guess.
Well, this is the
Maybe.
beginning of Alec Baldwin does not care for Charles' opinion and doesn't really, especially after the compass thing, he's not really willing to listen to him at all, and it just kind of compounds forever until he breaks. Right? I don't want to jump ahead too much, but at first it's little things with like that doesn't feel south, Charles, and Charles is like, it is. Listen to me, you fucking idiot. I know what I'm talking about.
Well, yeah, like the whole compass segment is like that. They get on land, and he's like, Bob is immediately ready to give up moments into this. And he's like, and he even says like, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a fire. And we start stacking lumber over here, and Bob's like, we're stuck in the woods. What are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And Charles is very like calm and collected through all of this. And I don't know do you guys think that Bob had a plan to sort of like, oh, Charles had an accident while we were at the second location or something? Do you think this was all premeditated that was like going on?
So. No, I don't think that he had a plan to kill Charles in the woods until he saw the opportunity to kill Charles.
There's multiple opportunities. Yeah. Okay.
But once 50% of the people had already died.
Yeah.
And
he's
makes it a
like,
lot easier.
And he even says like, I couldn't kill you in front of Steven. I'd have to kill him then too. Right. Like he says stuff like that as a joke, and it's meant to be jovial, and it's meant to make you be like, even for the audience to let their guard down a little bit, to be like, oh, maybe he is not as bad as we're making this out to be. You're supposed to be in the shoes of Anthony Hopkins being like, am I being cucked? Am I a cuckold? But he also needs Charles to get out because he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He can't even, he can't do anything. He is so stupid. He is the reason that everything bad happens after the plane crash.
That's true.
Except for getting lost. And even that, Charles isn't too worried about. He's like, oh, maybe it was my belt buckle.
My belt.
Yeah. Whoopsies. And that's when
maybe it was this.
When they do a giant circle. The thing that was great here too is like Bob's like, you're a billionaire. They're going to be looking for us in minutes from now. Of course, they'll go to the cabin, see we left a note, and they all look around knowingly like, wow, they don't know where the fuck we are.
There is a pretty good line when they're all sort of trekking when they finally make to the peak, and Alec Baldwin says to Stephen, he's like, our friend here is a billionaire. You know what happens when you misplace one? And like the implication being like, and then you think about what happened last year with like the submarine and shit. And it's like, yeah, even if they already know they're dead, they're still going to like spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to pretend like they're trying to find them.
Yeah. Resources.
I didn't even think about that till just now.
That happens. That happens when you get thinking about this stuff. You think about all the.
Do you think that Anthony Hopkins' character would have survived the submarine implosion?
Yeah,
he shows
up like, what you do is we have
I read a book about pressure underwater.
Yeah. You stick a little pin right here, and then when the pin is stuck right here, it keeps the integrity of the submarine fine, and then we'll get out of here unscathed.
The submarine
collapses. Implode, Bob? Should we sit here and implode?
Somebody loose.
Yeah.
He's like, but you know how much discarded plastic is at the bottom of the ocean, Bob? Bob, do you know? I don't know, Charles. I don't know, Charles.
That you
I'm
just
under a lot of pressure here, Charles.
You just did a great one sentence, Alec Baldwin. That was weird. Sounded like he was right in my head. But they didn't leave a note. They're basically on a deserted island situation. They're gonna walk back. Quick 20 clicks.
Yeah.
We're gonna walk out of here, Charles.
20 miles is not that bad at all.
20 miles is a long way to go for the fun of it, but it's not too bad if the other option is die.
Yeah.
That's
Lie
true.
down and Bob.
It's not it's not like 20 miles through a desert.
At this point in the movie, I paused it because to do something else for a minute, and then I saw the poster, and I was like, oh, the poster, if you see what they look like when they crash, it's kind of a spoiler for how long they're stuck out there. Because they have like full beards.
Yeah.
A week and a half, maybe, right? Like that's what that looks like.
Yeah.
The bear was completely smooth at the beginning of the movie.
Bart the bear just came off another picture where he had to have a really short haircut, but luckily it came in by the end.
Yeah. They do the trick involving the watch, which he tries to do. This is when he's like, let me see your watch. And Alec Baldwin does this fucking stupid acting thing that they do in movies sometimes. It's like when you cough into a handkerchief and you look at it and it shows that there's blood and they look around. He does a similar thing here where he's like, let me see your watch for a second. And he goes, it's broken. I thought that was a really funny acting choice to do there.
I thought it was all right.
It's broken.
I mean, I already know what's going to happen in the movie. I've seen it a million times, so I can't really think of what I was thinking.
It didn't seem suspicious to me.
I think it was like he had his hands up like this, like he was thinking, and then he goes like that, and he looks at it, and then he goes, "Mine's busted too."
I see what I thought it seemed like he was intentionally not showing on the watch, like maybe the watch worked,
right,
or something. But it didn't seem to me like. It didn't seem like I can't show you my watch. I'm having sex with your wife.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no one at this point, no one was thinking that there was an engraving that says,
"Yeah,
I
like having sex with you,
with your wife."
Yeah, that's for all the nights that we had sex.
I think my head was at
I fucked your wife, Charles.
I think I was stuck on Bob is trying to kill Charles at this point. Which obviously, you guys
stuck on that already.
So maybe he didn't want to help him or something. He didn't want
he didn't want to give him any leg up on the situation. What was even the trick?
It was
the watch.
There's an engraving on it.
No, there's an engraving on the back.
His name is Charles.
Yeah,
no, it's like you can. No,
if you point the hour hand at the sun,
right? Yeah,
that's stealth or something.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't have perfect recall, but it was something like
that. That's exactly what it was. I remember now. It was something
you can
like
watch the hour hand move, and you can figure out which direction the sun is moving, or some.
Why didn't they just wait till the sun went down a bit and know?
Well, that's what they do. They do that because then he
waits for the North Star. He's like, Cassiopeia, and it's like
the big W.
Just wait when the sun. Just wait till it's like 6 o'clock, and then you're like, okay, that's west.
That's true.
That's what I was.
True,
but also that far north,
television.
That far north, the sun setting is probably weird, right? It's
I
guess. Strange. I don't know. I don't really know. I know enough, but I don't know enough that I would be confident in my abilities to be like, the sun's going down that way. That's where we got to go.
But he does MacGyver together like a needle, which is made from a paper clip, and he puts it on a leaf. And that
Like
I actually
he's wearing a
recall.
silk shirt. That's handy.
Well, he's a
That helps
billionaire.
I guess.
Wearing is made of silk. It'd be funny if he like gave himself a front wedgie to do that. Like,
Yeah.
I do recall that something along those lines from when I was in like Beavers or Cubs or something.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that compass trick with the needle.
So I remember putting a leaf in water and putting a magnetized needle on it, and it goes to magnetic north.
What year were you guys in Cubs? Was it 1997? Yeah,
2022.
I put this on.
It'd be funny if like the Cubs didn't know about that trick until this movie came out, and they're like, "Holy shit, we should teach."
Yeah.
Because like even
all
like
the kids
old
watch
man
The
at the cabin, he's like, "It seems you can make a compass out of a needle." And that guy's like, "Well, that's a new one to me. So you got 30,
I never
40
really
million
leave
dollars
this
lying
porch."
around or what?" I've never left this porch. I let the bears come to me.
I wrote
Scar
Viking conversation. What was the Viking conversation? Do you recall? Doesn't matter if it.
You wrote it down, though.
I
Yeah,
have
I don't know.
racist photography session. Baldwin seems like he's on cocaine at this moment. When he's like freaking
probably
out about the
was.
shoe polish, I'm like, this guy is on cocaine.
He's like smoking in all these situations.
Read about
Bob
the
brings up
deadfall.
Bob brings up the thing about killing him on the plane, and Charles is like, you know, the girl might want to get the money. Bob is like, you're rich and crazy. All we want to do.
Yeah. Well, they
all we
have a
wanna do is
conversation
steal
at the
and
waterfall,
kill.
right? Do you want me to talk? Or are you gonna just keep reading? What's going on here?
I stopped talking.
Okay. So they stop at the waterfall to have a conversation, right? To drink and to like chill for a second. And Steven has his moment where he's just kind of like, are we really going to get out of here? And, you know, they both sort of reassure him, but then they let him wander off with higher hopes. And then they have a serious conversation. This is where Baldwin confronts him about what he said on the plane. He's like, he says something about like, is it my perverted mind or something? Or did you say to me, how am I going to kill you on the plane? And then Bob's like, yep, I said that. Yep. And then they have a conversation about it where Alec Baldwin, the entire time, the musical score as he's talking is like evil fucking Matrix music. It's like like everything he's saying is crescendoed by like a horror soundtrack, like a real thriller soundtrack. And it doesn't make me as an audience member feel any better about him. I think the intent was supposed to be like they're both combating each other here, but we've already seen like enough from Charles that like he has no ill intent. But I guess you don't really know by the end of this situation, is maybe Charles going to be driven to the edge to kill Bob, which he does, I guess.
Bob is a little homophobic in this bit and accuses him of being paranoid and having latent homosexual thoughts, and does a super insensitive gay voice.
So I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm gay.
Whoa.
Yeah. And for me, this made me feel like this character was saying he is like in some capacity like polyamorous. Like this Alec Baldwin character is like, I've fucked Steven over there like twice a week. We do it all the time. Like I kind of felt like with the invitation to the hot tub was like, hey man, if you want, we can all just get together and have sex together.
We could actually just have sex. Yeah. He is like a photographer in a big city. Who
photographers are gay. No, I'm just
not, but you know what I mean. Like I think the polyamorous
lifestyle is a little bit
more
easily accessible because there are more people are drawn to the arts that have like more open minds in terms of sexuality. But that's what I was reading from it. But by the end of the movie, we know that this guy is just a kind of a womanizing piece of shit. Like, he's
theories. He's homophobic.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right, Jason. But at this moment in the movie, I wasn't thinking that it was homophobic. I thought that he was just like, I don't listen, Charles, baby, I suck dick all the fucking time.
Homophobic by late 90s standards.
By late 90s standards, he would have
That's
been
pretty
hucking
tame.
around some crazy language, some very
It's
colorful
true.
language, and it wouldn't
That's a
even have
good
affected the
point.
rating. Yeah.
He didn't even throw down an F slur or anything in 1997.
Yeah, we know the words, man. We know.
1997
We know what Huey was
was the
gonna do.
point.
Yeah, we knew which slur he would have used.
They do see the bear at this moment, though, for the first time.
Yeah, and they don't even see it at first. They hear it. They hear like, and they're all like, diddling. And then there's a hilarious cut where like they're so scared and they start to like move backwards, and then it cuts immediately and they're just sprinting. All three of them are sprinting through the woods towards the camera. And it's like when you sprint towards the camera, there's almost something, unless there's something chasing you, there's almost something like pathetic and strange about it visually. So like them running towards the camera with nothing behind them, it just like shows how scared they are. To me, at least, I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are terrified because they're running as hard as they can through the woods and there's nothing behind them.
I rewound
It's also
that because I saw Steve and Bob running, and then I was like, oh, I want to see how Anthony Hopkins runs. I want to see how much he puts into it, and he was going pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
He had his hand in his pocket. And he's like, like old man running, but he was telling it.
One of the rules of bears is don't run from a bear, man.
Even the guy even tells them at the beginning, like, whatever you do, don't run. Just make yourself look as big and scary as you can.
Back away slowly.
But how far do you back away slowly? Like, do you back
and they do back away slowly and then turn around and bolt.
Yeah.
So
he also said to them after that, he says to Charles specifically after that, a Kodiak bear in particular will just as soon kill you as look at you. So I think that he was like in that moment telling him like, there are exceptions to the rules. If you see a Kodiak bear, run as fast as you can.
My implication in it was that they backed away slowly like they were supposed to. And at least Charles did for the longest time. But then once you can't see the bear, then it's just like, okay, let's get the fuck away from this bear. But
yeah,
right.
Maybe that's not what happened, but it just seemed, I don't know. You can't just back away forever.
When they were trying to get that log, also, I was like, I guess they were freaked out and it's early in the movie. You don't want to I thought just drop the log on the bear to at least slow it down. Obviously, it takes them multiple weeks to sort of get in the mindset that like we have to fight this fucking bear. But also, I thought it'd be funny if they did do that. And you know that credits moment that I keep bringing up, the new segment where you don't have a credits. Yeah, they just drop the log on the bear and the credits roll and the movie's only 28 minutes long.
Steven doesn't stab himself in the leg and they just walk out. They catch a couple of squirrels along the way to munch on. I made some squirrel bits. Anybody? They kill the bear. They're all wearing their bear costumes. That was another touch that
perfect bear costumes.
I fucking loved it because he's in the fashion world.
Yeah,
this guy would know how to sew shit. So he makes a slightly fashionable outfit out of this bear carcass.
Kodiak couture.
Yeah, enough for both of them too. And Charles is like, I'll make us necklaces. And he's like, well, I'm making us sick coats.
I hope you made one for me.
Yeah. He's like, of course I did.
And then he's like, check this out. And puts
it's like, da 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 da. This is the moment where, I mean, we've skipped ahead through so much of the movie, but that moment made me feel very good. And I was like, oh, maybe they're now together. Like they are together. They're friends for real.
Yeah. Together against the situation.
Yeah.
This movie has this interesting ebb and flow though, where they are very much buddy. Charles is a isolated billionaire who doesn't have a lot of friends. And Bob is somebody who's trying to get on his good side, but learning that he actually likes this guy. So I like how there's this circle of like, we have a buddy moment, and then we realize who we are to each other. And then Bob says some fucking out of pocket nonsense that makes Charles go like, whoa, and then it comes back around. I think there's like 3 or 4 moments like that, like this area of the movie, that when they're in the field and all hope is lost, even in the cabin right before he's loading the gun, they're having like a great like moment. He's like, you're drinking a man's supplies, and he's like, I'll send him a bill. And then that's when Charles is like, oh, you'll send him a bill of my money, will you? Anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it.
I don't know if he was thinking that at that point. I think he was more like, why are you stockpiling guns and ammunition?
Why are you loading that gun when we've already killed the bear? But at this point in the movie, when they throw the log down, Steve runs across, no problem. Bob gets across
Steve
pretty
seems like
good.
he's probably in his like mid-20s. He's probably a little more, like he's not as like bloated as Baldwin in his late 30s. Probably been doing coke and drinking booze all the time and like, fucking hookers and doing cocaine. Steve is probably like living on a more reasonable budget. He's probably eating well and he probably exercises more. He's able to get across. Believable. Scurries across. Baldwin, not as much. He's like, oh man, I put on a lot of water weight last week when we were in Cancun doing that other racist photo shoot.
yeah.
And then Anthony Hopkins, like he's going slower than the rest, but he's doing a good job.
He's doing a good job
until the bear comes up and turns up the difficulty to level 4.
Yeah.
He's like,
does a bear have that much?
How about this?
Does a bear have that much like sense of causality that it's like?
I know, right? I guess because animals do like they understand things, like they understand.
But what's Bart's end game here? Like, just make him. I can't. If I can't eat him, no one can. And just dunk him.
Well, the sense that I got from
he'll fall in the water and then he'll go down the river and eat him after he drowns.
I guess
he'll just get at the end of the river and open his mouth.
Water.
No, the sense that I got is like Bart the bear is a little bit he's like smarter than your average bear, if you will. But they kind of painted him to
give
be
me your
like
fucking picnic basket.
Once you eat a human brain, you're as smart as a human.
It's true. But they painted him to be kind of like a movie monster. I thought this movie was a great hybrid. You know how I like my genre bending. This movie kind of felt like a survival film that had a little like monster of the week kind of horror element in the middle of it. And when they kill the bear later, I was like, there's still like 35 minutes left in this movie.
The real monster was man.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I thought we were going to get a great tussle on a rock between the two.
Oh.
But no.
Well, I mean, the whole concept is what happens when you push a man to the edge.
Yeah. Although weirdly, for a movie you would think that would have that's when they said the name of the movie in the movie. I didn't clock them say the edge a single time.
Listen, Charles, you've driven me to the edge, Charles.
Right at the camera.
Spittling all over it. But I mean, this is where we get the movie shows us the fears of Charles, shows us the contention between the characters, and then this moment almost completely remedies it, right? Like it's like, okay, everything's fine now. They're all going to work together. Nobody has anybody worried about having a gun to their back. Because in Charles's mind, they could have just let me drown. I could have fallen in the river and broken all my bones on those pointy rocks, but they saved me. So that means that they don't want to kill me. And I mean, that's a logical thought. But then Alec Baldwin goes and throws that away by saying, like, I need you to get out of here. Like,
yeah,
are you fucking nuts? I'm not going to let the one guy who knows how to make a compass out of a leaf and a paperclip. We need you to do this for us.
Yeah, and he makes that point later. He's like, "Oh, now that you don't need me anymore, that's why you're fucking putting 8 bullets into that gun."
Yeah.
There's a bit that we kind of left out here that's kind of important, where they do have flares at the beginning, and when they do the loop and come back, they see the fire that they had with the flare still stuck into it, and then when they're crossing the log, the flares were in Charles's satchel, and when Charles falls into the water, the satchel goes down the river and they lose the flares. So I thought I should mention that.
Yeah, I mean, that is important. It's also important to mention that that's another example of Alec Baldwin's character being a complete dick and not listening to Charles, right? Like they're cold. They just fell into a icy cold river and had to perform AR on Steven to get him to come back to life. And they're all frozen, which is like one of the things that me and my friend Durak, anytime we're like outside and we're cold, we like pretend to like, he's like zipping his zipper, like so comedically frozen. But it because he's like, hey, we need those. Like, we shouldn't use the flares to start a fire. But at the same time, Anthony, you just wasted a match. You only have 7 matches. Those are just as valuable as the flares. So like maybe put a little bit more kindling down before you fucking light the paper. Those twigs were so thick. You thought they were light immediately?
They were also like clearly like covered in frost. Like I got a real vibe that they were showing it the way they were to be like, that's never going to light unless you just put fire on it.
But again, he's a theorist, right? Like he probably is just like, I need thin twigs and some kindling, and it'll be fine. It'll work. And it didn't work. But I mean, like his trial and error brain is able to correct for those things because they used the compass theory later, and we assume that he uses a better piece of metal, not a paperclip, and he probably got rid of that belt.
Yeah.
But I mean, to start a fire with a flare is a bad idea. But when you look inside the bag when he pulls that out, there's like 5 or 6 flares in there. So
also you're like literally freezing to death.
Yeah, you need it.
Oh, also my bad. They didn't realize they didn't realize they went in a circle till after the bear chased them.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're back at where they started. Yeah, they go on this. They're trying to get to the peak of a mountain, but it leads them in a giant circle somehow. But I mean, I don't know if you've ever been lost in the woods. This kind of shit can happen. I used to work at a summer camp, and it was like wild when I first started working there. I didn't have everything down, and you'd feel like you were going in a straight line, and then you'd realize that you went in this like big, long, weird circle. It's really easy to happen. Like no matter how smart you think you are, and how like you're like I'm a nature man, it can happen to you if you don't know what to do. Right?
Did you notice there was a weird like almost like area for an ad break, or they shot the scene of them realizing they lost the flares twice, because he's like, we lost the flares, and then it cuts to a new scene and they're walking up the mountain. He's like, we lost the flares again. Did you
there's a couple it's to show that he's dwelling on it so that Alec can hit him with the why do people die in the woods, Charles? They die of shame, Charles.
Just call a cab.
They do repeat a lot of things in this movie, and I think you're right, Alex. It's to show that the characters are dwelling on things. It's to show that the characters are sometimes being petty about things. Mm-hmm. And I think at other times it's just to make sure that like, remember this happened. It's important, like audience, you need to know. I think stuff like that sometimes comes up in like test audiences. They're like, but why didn't
they just use the flare?
And we're like, just throw in a line of ADR and just have him say it again. But we'll just like as he's walking or something from behind his head.
Like when I ask a dumbass question, that was for me.
Right. There you go. But I mean that there are times where it happens, and it does feel weird, right? Like there's a moment where he's like, all right, make a spear, Stephen. And he's
That's
like,
his next scene, in fact.
And he's like, make a spear. We need it for fishing. And then it goes to him moving towards Alec Baldwin, and Alec Baldwin's like, what's he gonna do, make a spear? And you're like, oh, he literally just said that. And it's like he's within enough earshot that like within the context of the story he didn't have to say that, but I guess they're trying to like add a level of realism where it's like maybe he didn't hear him because he's far enough away. But I what I'm saying, Jason, is like there's a lot of repeating of things, like one after the other, a lot in this movie.
I think I just noticed that one because of the proximity to and how like obviously we lost the flares but the dwelling on it bit, perfect.
He's also I think in shock at that point, like he almost fucking died. Where he's just like
and I think it's an opportunity for Bob to throw back Charles, because Charles is pretty incessant about being like what's that honking? Charles is pretty incessant about like, why do people die? Why do people die in the woods? They die of shame. And he says it all the time. Like, he's like, I'm not stupid. I'm not getting caught up. I'm clear-headed. And then he loses the flares, and then he keeps bitching about the flares, which is goes against his basically is like, I'm too cool to die mantra almost, right? So I think that's an opportunity for Bob to be like, oh, look who's dying of shame. You know what I mean?
Looks
a little
you're
bit
dying
like
of
that.
shame now too. Yeah.
I can't die in a place like this.
And then so Steve has the worst spear building experience anyone's ever had.
Yeah.
Moments he's like go make a spear and hunt fish, and then Charles is like, I just need him to stop. I need him to just keep his mind off it.
He gives it to him like a toy to keep his mind busy.
Yeah.
And minutes later you hear,
no, fuck, my leg
Walt!
Walt!
Yeah, Walt! And the wound on his leg is like this big, like 6 inches. Like, what did you do?
I thought my leg was a spear.
I have to say though, like Harold, what's his name? Harold Perrineau? Yeah, Perrineau. He's a fucking good actor, man.
Oh yeah, he's great. He would have been on Oz like at this time.
Oz too. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't look any different than he did in Oz. Like that's when I picture him, he looked the exact. And he's kind of like chronologically ambiguous. Like I don't know how old he is, and I don't remember when he was active because anything I watched with him is like mature stuff. And
I feel like he has like haircut eras where his hair is dramatically different through the.
But I feel like I watched Oz as like an older. Like I watched Oz way after Oz aired because we were like kids when Oz was out, and obviously you shouldn't be watching Oz when you're a kid. So it's like in my mind, he's like in 97. He wouldn't have been old enough to be as old as he was. Like he must be pretty old now.
I watched Oz literally this year.
Yeah.
You know, but he's on some other show now too. I was just gonna say he's on some other show now where he just looks the same.
Yeah, it's called
he's
like
on that horror show,
Old or something, or like it's like a weird horror television show, but it looks pretty cool. I've never watched it, but it looks great. But I mean, to me, he was always that's the guy from The Edge. That's Steven from The Edge. Like every time. I would see him.
For me, it's always I always think of him in the wheelchair.
Michael.
Oh, I think of
Michael
Link
from Lost for me.
From The Matrix. He's in the Matrix sequels. Link. Yeah. No one remembers Link? Come on. Link.
I do, of course. Tank's brother.
I don't think he's Tank's brother. I think he married Tank's sister. I think that's what it is.
Oh, okay. Well, they just he's the same character, but just a different actor, basically, and with a different name.
But also a more interesting character, in my opinion. I also think he should have got more to do in that series. Considering you had 2 full movies, give him more to do, man. But
There's a lot of screen to share, though, in The Matrix.
That's true. He did but he had more like foible-y stuff that I was like, what is that? Like he had that like necklace that he would like kiss and thing. I'm like, this guy has so much going on. I want to know more about Link. Anyway, so it was Link and Steven from The Edge. And then
I always think of the cold opens for Oz with him in like the spotlight doing this weirdo shit. Oz is such a
that
weird
thing
show.
where he's like spinning around.
It's like a weird. It feels like a David Lynch show, but it's
very bizarre.
It feels like you're on drugs. Like you're like, you're like checking your drink. It's like when you were watching Oz, were you thinking, did Madison poison me or something?
Through the lens of a 38-year-old, I thought the show wasn't as bad as I remember it because I'm an adult, but was also so fucking insane. At times.
Like not believable. Like
there's a whole episode where like Beecher gets out of prison, but it's all in his head. And you don't realize it's all in his head till like he's like out smooching his lawyer.
What about the aging medicine
that
or
thing
whatever?
I forgot to look up, but there is like a 3-episode arc where there's this pill that they give to inmates that if you sign up to take will age you the amount of years you were supposed to be in prison for, and then you just get out of prison after. Once you're done.
That's like
So it's like if you have a 20-year sentence and you're 40, you take the pill and you become 60, and then they release you.
I've watched all of Oz, but I don't remember a lot of it.
I
like
know.
3 episodes. The show is fully grounded otherwise, and then they introduce this thing, and I was like, "Who wrote this?"
I remember there are like 2 very major things in Lost that I remember. One is him in the wheelchair spinning. At the beginning of episodes, like almost like poetically speaking to the camera. And then that one episode where the guy is giving another guy a blowjob and then he gets his neck snapped. That's the other thing I remember him going, does that happen in prison? Oh my
Beecher
God.
bites off fucking J.K. Simmons' penis, the tip of his penis at one point too.
I don't remember that part. But I think I was playing like Assassin's Creed 2 or something and watching the whole thing at the same time. Like I had 2 TVs going.
I broke my laptop watching Oz. I was trying to watch it in the bath, and I was getting into the bath, and I had my laptop balancing on the edge of the bath so I could watch an episode of Oz in the bath, and my laptop fell and broke.
You're like, it
didn't fall in the water. It fell on the tile floor.
Plugged in. Or else we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's true.
All right, laptop took the aging pill.
So he cuts his leg open, and
He's dying.
Sells the shit out of
the edge.
he sells the shit out of being worried, which is like, I think, a very hard emotion to do accurately, where you're like, you're in pain, but you're more concerned about the fact that, like, holy fuck, how am I gonna get out of here?
Yeah.
I just fucked not just myself up, but like the chances of everybody getting out of here if they decide to take me with them. Like, there's like all these emotions going through him at this one moment. And I think he does a very good job. I think that, like, his performance is just as good as the other two.
Yeah.
And maybe at some points better than the other two.
I don't know, man. That Anthony Hopkins, he'd sell fucking.
They're both
anything.
both kind of killing it though. Like Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins. I think Alec Baldwin is in a comfortable glove situation where he's like, I'll just do my Alec Baldwin thing that I do.
I'll just be an asshole.
Yeah. And
Just
Anthony
play
Hopkins is
dickhead.
like, I have to be more contemplative about this, but he's also doing his thing, right?
Yeah. What are we going to do? Lay down and die?
He wants to lay down and die, Bob. But he gives him the rags and he's like, go bury these. Or no, he says, we have to bury these.
Yeah.
And then he gives them to him.
He hangs them.
And he runs into the woods. And me, having seen this movie before, being like, what the fuck? Is he just like running away and then going behind a tree being like, I'm not going to do what that old
I'm
fuck
burying
says.
them.
And then like hangs them on the tree. Like,
because we find out like minutes later, it like cuts to like it's night and it's raining and they're like fucking shivering. And then
no, that's not right. So it cuts to night, you're right, but it's a beautiful clear sky, and it's a good moment between Charles and Stephen where they have this sort of like nice moment where they talk to one another, and throughout it they have a brief little connection, and Stephen is like, you know what, man, you're pretty fucking cool. Like, you're a really kind man. Like, you didn't have to do any of this. You saved me from the plane. You performed AR on me to bring me back to life. You've been helping us this whole time. You have taken care of me since I accidentally stabbed myself in the leg.
Yeah.
And now you're still trying to like look on
Make
the bright
sure I
side
don't
of everything.
die, yeah.
And also teach me about constellations. Like, you see that constellation up there? That's Cassiopeia. And it's a giant W, and the end of the W, it ends at the. And so he's still trying to like take his mind off of all the horrors that have already happened to him. And then he goes and talks to Baldwin, who's smoking a fucking cigar. And I'm like, I hope to God this cunt like didn't
lit it on
just,
the
like,
fire.
I hope he lit it on the fire. Yeah. Like, I hope he
The lights
didn't
are
use a match to light this cigar. Which like
flares.
He's just like hits them off each other.
Also,
like,
half his face is burnt
like a
off because
Mad
he
Max
lit it up
character,
against. Yeah.
Oh man, because I'm starting to get pissed with this character at this point, because he's not being receptive to the direction that's being given to him. He's
almost not
questioning
taking it
Charles.
seriously a little bit.
Well, he's like, yeah, they're gonna come for us. You're a billionaire. They can't just leave you to die. And he's almost being like, okay, whatever, old man, I'll listen to you for now.
Yeah.
And within, he finally has this sort of like moment where they break down, but it's also showing like his sort of like mental state where he goes into this like almost manic laughter at a small joke that Charles makes, which I think is understandable if you're in a life-threatening situation. A tiny bit of humor could.
Yeah, not too much levity in that situation.
In what way?
Potentially.
When he says in what way to little different than snorting coke off a woman's hip bones, and Charles goes, in what way?
Yeah.
And that's when he laughs.
Great little. Yeah.
And then they go back to the campfire, and this is one of those moments where you're like, 90s movies, they use natural light. Remember natural light? Remember when that was a thing? Not just green screens everywhere. I hate to be that guy, but like, they have this like super dark campfire that's clearly nighttime, and then they have to use the natural light of the setting sun. So like, continuity wise, it doesn't really make sense. He leaves the campfire and it's like blue, like it's like sunset, and I'm like, but like seconds ago he was pointing out Cassiopeia. Like, he's like, look at up there, the stars, but the sun's still up over there near the pond water.
It was farther east.
Yes, it's just a tiny bit. And then that's when, Jason, we get it cuts to the pouring rain, and Stephen is like dying of like his leg wound, and they both get up and they walk out from underneath their shelter, and I'm like, the first thought I have is like, what the fuck are you doing? It's pouring rain. You guys are
drinking it
dry.
in.
Like, don't get wet. You know how long it takes to get dry in a situation like this? A long time. You have to take all your clothes off and hang them by open flame. And even then, it takes a while. But turns out they're going out there to have a little conversation about what we do with Steven, because it's like, we got to get him out of here. Charles seems to be very, I don't know, like he's optimistic about the situation. He's like, yeah, well, it's all right. His leg's only kind of fucked up. It's not super fucked up.
Yeah. He's got two.
Yeah, we can help him out.
He'll be fine in a wheelchair.
Yeah, and then we get a kind of a good cinematic moment. This is like one of those moments that I like in movies that they don't really do a lot anymore. I think because it's too hokey, I guess. But he's like, no, of course. We know that that's north and he's going to say that and that's south. And it's like, obviously, if that's north, that's south. You don't have to do that for us to know. But the whole reason is so that he goes and that's south so that he can see the bloody bandages like in a tree that's just like slightly far away. And it like
You're supposed to bury
does one of those like crazy.
It's not even like they were on the ground. He like
hanging in a fucking tree. Yeah.
The smell of blood is in the air.
Yeah. And then he's like, he's not even raging or upset. He's like exhausted, being like,
it's like
fucking
incredulous.
Told you, man. Like, I told you to bury these. And
It
then
would be
his
a real
response
shame.
is, what's the difference? Where it's
Yeah.
like, what the fucking, how do you not, like, even as a kid, I knew like wolves and animals can smell much better than human beings, and they like the smell of blood. How does this man, this cocaine addict who fucks, I guess that's why
he can't smell. Yeah.
All he knows. Yeah, it's true. He can't smell the cocaine. What is it? That doesn't smell like anything to me. And yeah, obviously it attracts the bear. And like, you know, in a very cinematic fashion, immediately.
I was going to say, well, you know, it's funny that they're having this conversation and then at that exact moment, bear attack.
The bear was waiting. He was waiting for them to notice the rag.
The bear understands a dramatic entrance. He's
oh man,
every single time in this movie, he's like, hey, he's Bart the bear. He's like, no, I'm gonna let it cook for a couple more seconds.
yeah.
Oh fuck, it's Bart. Yeah.
Can we address the human centric notion of like once a bear tastes man, it's like he's a man killer for life. It's like, are we that delicious? Like, are we so delicious that it's like,
listen, Alex, taste a human being and then get back.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, but like, what? It just so happens that the person telling the story is the most delicious thing in the planet.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That seems a little.
That's human hubris, is what it is.
Yeah,
it
is. It really is.
That one killed a human, and now it wants to eat only human.
Yeah, maybe just bears kill animals that walk by them.
Yeah, that are slower than them. Yeah,
yeah.
If anything, like a human probably tastes more fresh because we wear clothes. We're like, it's like a candy wrapper.
But it's like, have you ever had to eat a duck and it has jeans on? You know what I mean? It's like
exactly. Well, I mean, for me, I can like no, but that's
so
because
you know what I mean. It's
everything
like,
I know about ducks is they wear shirts but no pants.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you eat like scrambled eggs and it has like a little bit of shell in it, you're like, this is bullshit. And then you got people that they got like fucking a wallet and they got like their keys in their pocket.
You're chewing on a wallet. You're like, is this part of
an
the
animal?
meat?
And there's like a set of keys. You'd be like, oh, like I'm never eating this again. We're not eating here again. Bartha, we're not eating here again.
Bartha.
Also, the bear refuses to like
Bartha.
cross fire because it's just because it is fire. Also, you know what I mean. So yeah,
that was a cool shot. The big firewall.
Yeah, I liked that as well.
I do like that logic though, Alex. Like a bear.
That's good logic. That's really funny.
On a just a ring of keys and being like, what the fuck is in
or
this
a bunch
thing?
of paper money and coins.
yeah.
I was thinking of it more like a candy wrapper.
Sand in my food.
Like, would you rather eat a granola bar you found on the ground or a granola bar you found on the ground with a wrapper on it? Probably the one with the wrapper on it.
Yeah, but you would unwrap it.
I would unwrap it. That's true. But a bear doesn't know to unwrap you, I guess.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think that those are just like inflated hunters who were like, I was out there with a man eater. And it's like,
exactly.
I don't think you were. I think you were out there with a bear.
Yeah,
and you were scared.
Bears eat things.
Yeah.
When you think of Jaws, though, like the sharks in movies are always filled to the brim with like old metal and stuff. So
yeah, but I mean, also
animals
Jaws
just
is like
eat.
the man-eaters are eating because they know, okay, at this time of day, there's going to be a bunch of plump legs dangling underneath like inflatable tubes. I could just grab one and eat it. It's just easy. It's a lazy shark, is what it is.
Yeah.
This is a lazy shark. You heard it here first, folks. Cut to them trying to trap a squirrel. They're just planning on living there, I guess, until they can walk out. After all of that,
this is a cute moment, followed by a tragic moment, followed by an intense moment, and it's all very sequentially tight.
The helicopter flyover like bit.
Yeah, it also makes me hate Alec Baldwin even more at the end because he is so reliant on Charles throughout this movie. But in this moment, it almost feels like a child-son situation, like a son and father. Like he's like, "Are you gonna do it, Dad? Are you gonna do the thing?" And it's like a perfect cage of sticks. Like, Anthony Hopkins was like, "Oh yes, I know how to make a cage out of sticks. Let's just find some bark that I can make into thin
lawyer
strips
cane
of
or
rope."
whatever.
What the fuck? And then we'll make a rope out of our own hair.
Yeah.
We don't have that much hair, Charles. We do. We've got plenty.
We've got plenty of hair.
Take Steven's hair.
Yeah. Oh God.
He
and
won't
then
be needing it.
Yeah, he won't be needing it.
Is
And
Steven,
then-
did we miss Steven getting eaten?
Oh, we didn't talk about it. Yeah, Steven gets eaten.
No,
Steven
he gets mauled, and they show his wounds. It's pretty gory. It's pretty good.
It also has like one of those sounds in a movie that's pretty halting in terms of like your stomach, where you're just like, oh, because he's screaming and it's in terms of an acting scream, he sounds terrified.
Like he's getting eaten by a bear.
Yeah, and he sounds like he's in pain. But there's like this halt to it where it's like mid scream, it just stops.
Yeah.
And you can tell that the bear just like grabbed him somewhere that halted it. And the music kind of like peters out. The sound effects are getting a little softer, and it's just like it's pretty horrifying. I remember that moment being the part where I was like in the blankets and
it's a little Jurassic Parky.
I was thinking Jurassic Park because it's raining too.
It's almost more frightening than Jurassic Park because even as a
because
kid,
you're
I was
not
like,
scared that you're actually going to encounter a dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
Yeah,
I am generally frightened I might encounter a Kodiak bear at some point, but I mean, not where I live.
What about a Kodiak dinosaur?
Kodiak dinosaur.
He's a man eater.
A Kodiakosaurus. My God. It's got feathers instead of fur. But I mean, bears do eat you while you're still alive, just like Dr.
They
Grant
love that
used to
shit.
say.
I mean, everything does, I think.
Yeah, most things. Actually, most large cats kill you first because
I guess they
don't want you flailing around.
Yeah, don't bears like playing with their food? Isn't that like a thing about bears?
It's not that they like it; it's that they just start eating.
They're like, I'm a bear. What's this guy gonna do?
Yeah, I'm on top of him.
No, it's that humans are so delicious they can't even wait for us to die before they start eating us.
They can't even wait to take the wrapper off.
It's like a lobster, If you kill us, then we start to taste bad. So you got to eat us while we're still alive.
Oh God!
Is that why you boil lobsters alive? I did not know that.
If you kill them, if they are dying, they release a chemical that spoils the meat. So you have to either sever their brain instantly so that they die like 1 second they're alive or 1 second they're dead, or you boil them so that there's no like traumatic injury that releases.
And that's probably like a fish. A carnivore fish can't bite into a lobster.
Maybe I don't know. It could just be part of their biology. It just when they die, they just taste bad right away. I don't know.
Lobsters are kind of fucked up. Anyway.
What bugs. If a lobster was chasing them in the edge? Is that
a giant lobster from Fallout?
It's a giant one.
Yeah.
I told you to bury the butter.
Yeah. Oh my God! What are you doing? Do you smell garlic?
It makes a bear sound still.
He's a man pincher. I hope you made one of those for me. It's like a claw necklace.
A giant fucking like.
He's got the antenna on his like a hat, like hood, like all right, let's go.
And he pulls the shell up over his head. To be like,
They're
"Check
at the
this
side of the
out."
river with a giant lobster trap ready.
Like going over the. Okay, so he gets eaten. It's very sad, disappointing even because his character is good, and I kind of wish that he stuck around a little longer. But it's meant to throw them both into peril, which it does. And you know, the two of these guys already have this sort of unspoken bad blood that we're all watching boil as the movie goes. But we've also been sort of placated at this point, where we don't really know if what Anthony Hopkins' suspicions are.
It's almost like they're mommy and daddy, and they don't want to fight in front of Steven.
Yeah, and now that Steven's gone, they can. So they run off and they decide to take a break and make a camp in a fucking wind tunnel, which is like, so they're like, what are we gonna do, Charles? What are we gonna do? And you're like, holy shit, why'd you guys not find like a cave or some shit? There is some good banter here, some
How do you
good
make
back and
ice?
forth.
How do you make fire from ice?
Well, we're getting there. This is where we are. We're watching him sort of like contemplate killing the bear. He's like, we're gonna kill the bear. We're gonna figure it out. And then they have to eat, so they've got to get the squirrel, right? So like the squirrel is caught in a cage. I don't know how much meat that is. Have you guys ever eaten a squirrel or a chipmunk or whatever that was?
No, but watching shows like Alive, that's sustenance. There's enough. You can eat a rat or a squirrel, and it's enough sustenance for like a day or two.
Yeah, it's better than eating nothing.
I'm just wondering, like, did Anthony Hopkins not read any books on like plants you can eat? Like, why isn't he being like, well, we can eat these, we can eat these?
Like, don't do shit. Like,
in the Arctic, you can't really eat anything. That's
everything's like, well, these only grow because they're extremely poisonous.
Yeah, like
they can survive cold. Yeah.
And to be honest, if you're gonna walk like 20 miles in freezing weather and you haven't eaten in a couple days, I don't think there's much vegetation that's gonna like give you enough energy to really. You need like meat.
It costs more to like pick and eat berries than it it costs more calories to burn. Shivering costs a lot of calories, so you got to keep moving. That's real.
No, I know. I just like the way you put it is funny. I'm picturing you with like a Weight Watchers page. Shivering actually burns a lot of calories.
Yeah, you get up at 6 in the morning and go sit outside in the cold every day to lose weight.
Maybe there is something to ice baths.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is probably my favorite part of the movie, just because it's one of the most quotable, but it's also like the moment that solidifies the relationship between these two in proper. Like it illustrates it perfectly, which is, the helicopter goes over, they run out just slightly too late, which is tragic, obviously. Imagine, I still feel it, even though I've seen this movie a ton of times, them watching out and the tail of the helicopter going around the corner. My heart sinks. I'm like, oh man, if only
I get this a lot already out in the open there.
Yeah, it's like in any sort of like romantic comedy or even regular comedies where there's that one moment of like something happens where it's like they're friends and then all of a sudden they're not friends, and then you think in your mind like, if only he didn't say that one thing, they would have been friends the whole movie. And you're like, well, that wouldn't have been. It would have just been two friends for 2 fucking hours. But Alec Baldwin has his like complete breakdown, right? Like and anyway, Charles like lets him do it. He's like, all right, go ahead, Bob. Freak out, Bob. Freak out for as long as you want. And he goes on like a crazy rant. Like it's like a 1990s, I'm a rich guy, but not rich enough guy kind of rant / like, I hate that you are so disconnected, and it's a little bit ableist at times. Like it's a kind of a bad rant. I mean, it is a bad rant. I'm not going to say it's kind of a bad rant. It is a bad rant, but it's also important to his character because like he crumbles entirely in this moment. He loses all sense of self-worth and self-righteousness, which he has a ton of, and also like his perceived ability to do anything. He's lost. He's completely gone. And it's finally the moment where like once he gets it all out, he accepts Charles saying like fire from ice, Bob. How do we get fire from ice?
Yeah.
And that's what sends him off in the first place, because Bob, presents these little riddles. They're not really riddles; they're just questions with actual answers.
But this one felt like a riddle to
a little bit
to Bob too. He's like, I don't fucking know how to do that.
And he's like crying, and it's a good performance. Like he's he's walking away and he's still delivering lines with his back turned, and you can hear him like weeping while he's doing it.
The other thing is that a lot of his nonchalance so far in the movie has been based around the fact that, okay, I'm basically with Jeff Bezos, and they're not going to leave Jeff Bezos out in Alaska wilderness to die. But then their ship comes in and they miss it. So it's like he hasn't been too concerned for the most part, because it's fine. They're going to send a helicopter and they'll find us and we're out of here. But then that opportunity is gone, and he's faced only with the more daunting path. You know what I mean? Yeah.
The real fear is now much more real. Like it's rearing up, and he's just like, you guys can't function in regular society, but you put you in a survival situation and you fucking bloom or whatever. And like he's just kind of jabbing at him the whole time.
Yeah, he's mad that Charles isn't as scared. Charles.
Yeah. But then after he gets it all out, he's like, and then, Charles has a couple of words of wisdom. Again, not really words of wisdom, just like kind of like, are you done? Like, have you figured out your emotions? And then he says, all right, give it to me. Fire from ice. How do you do it? And like, that's his character fully kind of yielding to Anthony Hopkins' character, just being like, all right, Charles, you now have my full attention, and I will listen to everything that you say, no matter what. Like I'm not going to question you. I'm not going to feel South being wrong. I'm not going to not bury the rags. I'm going to do everything that you say from this point on, because you're the only one that can actually get me out of here. And we might have to walk out of here. And it's good. It's a pretty powerful moment. Jason, thoughts? No, he's not here.
I was just gonna say they get it, like they get their shit together like right after this, and they keep.
Well, that's. I think it's not so much them getting their shit together, so much as it is Alec Baldwin agreeing to
getting
listen.
His head out of his ass.
Yeah, just being like, okay, we have to work as a team, and you are clearly the team leader here. Like, I need to listen to you, and I need to stop being an idiot.
They also like the bear just returns like very shortly after this. I think there's a bit of a time jump, but
there's
is there a montage here of them like doing more?
Kind of like a semi montage. It's just like a quick series of events, but it's not a montage in the classic sense. It's like they have dialogue, they have little moments of doing things. It's when they're trying to fish. He's like, gold. Everybody in the world fucking wants gold. Why wouldn't a fish want gold
for fish or whatever?
And he's he makes a little
makes like a little hook.
There was someone else looking for fish too.
Yeah, or gold. Party. Bart's like, I was told I was going to be paid in gold. But this turns into another plot where there's like a super bear that's telling Bart to go get the gold from the humans, and they don't even want to eat the humans. Oh no! Have you ever tried to eat a wallet? It's disgusting. It's full of plastic, microplastics.
Yeah, we're already so full to the brim of microplastics from these humans.
But I mean, I always kind of get excited for this moment, because I'm like, as they're building the lure, and it looks so cool. Like, it's just the way he's carved this little knot into a fish hook, and he puts his pocket watch chain on it and dangles it in. Like, up until that moment, like as it's dangling, I'm like, oh, cool. And then my brain is like, he catches a fish, right? And then as it goes in, I'm like, oh no, he doesn't. This is the part where he doesn't catch a fish. And it has this sort of like 90s camera. It's lurking, but it's not lurking enough that you think it's supposed to be the bear's POV. It's just showing him from further and further away perspectives until it's him like looking up, and the bear is just right there, like he
watching
apparated. Like he emerged, like he could have been there the whole time, and Anthony Hopkins just didn't notice him.
Was
this the scene where like they cut to them and the bear's a little closer, and they cut back to them and the bear's kind of like just?
It's the scene where it's chasing Anthony Hopkins, and it's like the only scene I think that has CGI, because like the trees snapping.
The tree breaks.
Yeah.
But for some reason they put one like right in the foreground, like and it's like it looks like
it looks very like rotoscoped.
You're like, this doesn't look real.
I had a note I wanted to say just before I forget about the score. I've been playing the new Spider-Man game, like Spider-Man 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2. This main score, not like the foreboding, like when they're showing large shots of the forest, it's very similar. And it's like the person who made the score for this wanted to make the score for a superhero movie. That's what it feels like.
Superhero movies didn't exist yet.
That's just it, right? So they were like, this fits perfect for this, but they would go on to be like what they use in Marvel movies. Anyway, that's just the thought I had.
I thought you were going to say that this movie ripped off a video game that came out 2 years ago.
Nope.
No? Okay, good.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
I actually really like the soundtrack for this movie. It has like that. It has like this weird lonely feeling to it, which I guess is appropriate for Spider-Man.
It's good for Spider-Man.
He's a lonely boy who's like, I have a secret identity and I can't tell nobody about it.
But Miles Morales is just the same, but they put a trap beat behind it because.
Oh, was it the Miles Morales? I haven't played any of the Spider-Man video games, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, like when you're in the new one, you can switch back and forth between Miles Morales and Peter Parker, and in the first one, the score is very much like this game, and then in the Miles Morales one, it's like the same kind of score, but there's like kind of like a beat in it because he's a young man.
Yeah.
And then in the new one, when you switch back and forth, the score changes in the same way.
Oh, that seems problematic.
They put a little
I don't know
on the soundtrack.
No.
Yikes.
No.
I'm sure it's a good
Canceled.
game.
It's great. It's fantastic.
So we get our first attack after Steven's death.
I wrote, so I guess their plan is to create a forest fire because they have that big fire built after they get away, and they're just throwing burning logs into the woods. It does end up creating a perimeter like after I think an hour goes by. That's what I interpreted it to be. But I'm just like, oh, they're just gonna burn this whole forest down.
I mean, that would get people's attention. Like if I'm a helicopter, I'd be like, oh, let's check that out. Maybe that's where people are.
Yeah, that's a good point. But it was more so to be like they found a way to keep the bear from getting to them, but unfortunately, it also keeps them in one spot forever.
This moment reminded me of the new Predator movie, Prey.
I felt like Predator to me as well.
Yeah. There's a scene in Prey where she uses the same tactic to leap into like a natural dam or whatever and to get away from a bear. The only difference being Anthony Hopkins escapes, whereas in Prey, the bear is skinned by an invisible monster.
Invisible alien.
Yeah.
With 2 sets of jaws.
This then leads into the conversation, the hard conversation of like, we have to kill the bear. There are boys in Africa who go up and slap lions right on the fucking face and shit. And he's like bringing up all these stories of hunters in the past from all over the world.
He did also say
people
that
slap bear.
He would slap the bear as well.
Yeah, he talks about different places
about both,
on the planet where people have gone up against large predators and been able to succeed. But he basically highlights over and over again that like teenage boys have done this. We are two men. We are smarter.
One man can do it, another man can repeat it, or whatever the line was.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, we're
what one man can do, another can do. What one man can do, another can do.
Edge Anthony Hopkins versus Predator, who wins?
Predator.
Predator, yeah. Would you rather be stuck in the woods with a man or a predator?
What if he's read
What's
all
the
of the
difference?
novelizations?
Oh,
what if he's read all the novelizations of all the Predator books?
Over here.
He's like, oh, Pop. He just
You're
hears,
one
like,
ugly motherfucker.
he just hears Charles. Yeah,
and it does the voice altering. Charles.
You're starting to loosen up, Charles.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Your screen froze for a split second again when you said Charles. The last time it looked like he ventriloquist did it.
Cool.
So that was great.
Charles.
Ventriloquism. They come
And-
up with a lure plan.
Yeah, they create an Ewok attack strategy.
Yeah, big time. Like, how did they miss that in the montage, where they made a fucking
Well, I guess he didn't say Charles during it.
a 60-foot a 60-foot morning star basically.
Yeah, he makes a ton of traps for the bear, but they're all meant to sort of drive it forward, which is like super smart. Where he's like, we're gonna make essentially like an obstacle course for it to get to us. We're hoping that the obstacle course will injure it enough that we will be able to kill it at the end of the obstacle course.
You know how he does that, though. He's like, you know what we need as a lure? One of us has to be the lure. And you know what we need for that lure? Blood! And cuts his thumb and shows it to the camera like that close.
How are we going to get him, Charles?
Blood!
Blood! He says it twice.
Wait, okay, here's a good question. Where if you need blood and you have a knife, where do you get the blood?
Oh, your thumb, obviously.
No, I feel like your thumb, you need to use your thumb so much. Like
Alex is going to go for the thigh like Steven did.
No,
you cut your hand
you got
like
too
in
much
every
blood.
other movie.
I don't know. Like, yeah, but every time I see that, I'm like, okay, it's like, and then in the next scene, you're holding a spear, and like all you're thinking about is, ow.
I do think that your fingers technically, and your fingers and toes bleed less than most of the other areas of your body. Like they tend to heal faster, but I agree, because then you're going to be annoyed because you also use your hands for everything. Like, give me like a little snip on my booty or something,
or like a little bit.
Give me
of
some
give me a good juicy arm, or the back of your hand.
But I mean, I got a cut across the back of my arm here, and it was very, very shallow, and it bled for like day. Like I would shower and it would bleed.
Blood.
Blood. I'd get out of the shower and I look and be like, tonight we're gonna kill the motherfucker. Blood. Then it's smeared on the mirror. Write my name. I know. I write Steven should have lived in the Edge.
Yeah.
Why? And the bear's like, what are you talking about?
Blood.
The trap is a fail. Well, how did you guys interpret this? Because I feel like it swung forward. They were trying to clearly like aim for the head. The way that
they had a stick
obviously
had a spot,
on the ground.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a failure. I think that those were all maybe this might work plans, but the ultimate plan was get us here so that I can do the spear trick.
Cool move, yeah.
But when the flail kind of goes by, it like grazes him. When it comes back, I interpreted that it stuck him a little bit.
It looked like
a little bit of damage.
Yeah, he makes a big yelping noise like when it hits him. So I think that I think they got meat there. Yeah.
They run out and fall down a cliff.
Yeah.
Which was like, do you not like go look for that, or maybe that was part of the plan, but a bear is chasing them.
They probably were like, we can get down here, right? And then they were both probably like, yes, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully the flail just kills the bear.
Yeah. And
then
sorry, go ahead.
Just the scene of they got this bear to like slide
down on its belly.
A
very cute move where you're like, oh, look at Mark go.
Maybe that's what confused me. Maybe that's why I was like, don't kill this bear. This bear's done nothing wrong except for eat a guy. Maybe that's what confused me.
Hey, you can't go to Bear's house and be mad that Bear's home.
Exactly.
That's true. They're in Bear's house.
They can't seem to spear the bear. They're sort of backing it up. I didn't interpret it the way that you did, Steve. I think that you might have gone in. Maybe this is the same for you, Alex. But the ultimate goal was to have the bear like get up on its hind legs and fall.
Well, I think that was.
They talk about that.
They do, and
they did. Okay.
They also show like drawings of it and shit, like illustration or not. I think he draw. Where am I seeing this imagery in my head? Maybe he was just describing it so well that I conjured it. Is there ever an image of someone doing that in the movie?
I don't know if there's an image. But they definitely, he talks about
putting
he's
locking
making the spear. He says, he's like, oh, you got to use its own weight against him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
So the way I look at it is that they created these traps hoping that the traps would work, and then they had the last ditch effort to get to that area that I assume they picked out beforehand to lock
it seemed
in place.
like they were like, okay, we're here in the shallow river.
Yeah, let's go.
The perfect environment to kill the bear.
And they did. They succeeded. Not without horrifying injury to both of them, I think. A couple of broken ribs at least, and some lacerations.
Bob gets pretty mauled before Charles was able to like lure the bear off of pretty mauled.
Oh, I thought you said pre-mauled.
He gets pre-mauled.
Like the beginning stages of being mauled.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true too. It's crazy that Steven got the shit eaten out of him, and for like somehow Bob was able to escape with only like a punctured side, which didn't really affect him at all. I thought that was going to play a bigger role.
Yeah.
But no, he's fine until like later. You may have already covered this earlier, but Bart the Bear is also in Legends of the Fall, another movie where Sir Tony Hopkins barks at the camera. That's interesting. So Anthony Hopkins probably got Bart this job.
That's true.
Oh, you have a theory, do you? You have a theory?
You've seen the movie Fracture, starring Anthony Hopkins and what's his name? The guy from...
Oh yeah, is that the one where the wife gets killed in the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie is insane.
And what's his name?
Oh, Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling, yeah. My theory is that the character in that movie is the same character as this character. He just like went on and married another wife and then murdered her and had to go to, because he's always like designing things and reading shit. I'm like, these are the same character. But I mean, you know, he could also be Hannibal.
Yeah,
this is just Hannibal later in his career.
Yeah, but I if you watch Fracture and you watch this, the edginess of the character is carried over between. I know they're not named the same thing. I just feel like it could be an unofficial sequel.
Yeah.
After going to the edge of the world and fighting his urge to edge and edging Alec Baldwin out.
He became a man killer.
Exactly. he only had the taste for human blood after that.
That's his tradition.
That's my theory. But in this moment, they're chased by the bear down the hill. He does a cute slide, and we all go, "Aw, Paddington, Paddington Bear." And then
Kodiak Paddington.
Then he gets pre-mauled.
It's pre-mauled, and then he leans back and lets it all happen.
It gets impaled.
One thing that I assume was a foregone conclusion in my mind, and Jason, I don't know if you thought about this as well. I know Steve didn't because he watched this movie already. I thought that the indigenous dude was going to show up and help them with the bear at some point.
Right? I didn't think
that,
but
he
that's
simply
a good thought.
does not. Like they went to where the guy is.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get all the way there. They got halfway there.
Yeah, but it's like he's like a legendary bear hunter, and like, you know what I mean? It's like
he
would have even been kind of crazy.
Oh no, I just thought it would be like, you know, you'd hear a shot, or like when all seems lost, this guy would show up and be like, "I'll show you a thing or two about killing bears." And help.
Yeah, I like that didn't happen, but
yeah,
I can understand.
I definitely expected it.
Imagine it would have been even kind of cool if it was like a Jurassic Park Sam Jackson thing where they like found him killed.
Yeah, killed by the bear.
By the bear as well. Yeah.
Just a shot of him in a porta potty and the bear just fucking gulps him.
It's half of
pile of
his body. His legs are on
his
there.
clothes are on the ground and his keys are neatly set on top.
And his wallet
covered in blood.
I was gonna say
for
Alex's sake, it would have been just his legs and half a porta potty. And then we would have had our bisection, and we could have been like the bisection trilogy. Yeah. Let's just say that happened in the movie.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Yeah, that's why the indigenous guy never shows up.
Seen the movie, so that's fine.
Nobody's seen this movie at all.
The bear was hit by a car and was pinned to a tree.
Yeah,
and fell in. Yeah,
and its last words were.
They do bisect the bear's corpse from his
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
They do cook it too.
Yeah, they
It's
cook
another thing.
cardamom
Like,
and
Yeah, they had a real Ewok moment after, right? Where
yeah,
they fashion his skin into clothes, which is the ultimate like fuck you to this bear.
Yeah. Who's the bear now?
Who's the bear now, bitch?
2 men are better than bear.
Like they're so close to dying, and they're still like taking time to make necklaces, and
Yeah.
I mean they're eating the bear, which is good.
I mean, at that point, you're just trying to rest, right? So, like,
I guess.
and you got to take your mind off of the fact that you're in the middle of the fucking wilderness. Let me just make a necklace. Yeah.
When he was like, "Are you gonna make one for me?" I felt a little bit like, no, people who finished the bear off get to wear its claws. But then I was like,
I like
back up.
He baited. He helped
bait it.
mauled for it. You know what I mean?
He got mauled. Yeah.
It's not like he stood back and didn't do anything.
I like that he made one, and then he had only made one. It was the only one he had made so far.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Did you make one for me?" And he's like, "Of course I did." And then he gives him the one he just made, and immediately starts making.
And then he
another
starts working on
Yeah.
another one. Yeah.
I think that's very nice and cool, and again shows that this character is a nice, cool person. But it also shows that Alec Baldwin is like a selfish prick again, because like he would have been there watching him the whole time make that. Or maybe I guess he was distracted making the clothes, and he did make clothes for both of them.
Yeah, he did.
And I will say he made the cooler jacket for Charles.
Yeah. With the like shoulder parts.
Yeah,
it has like a neck guard, like a crazy, like
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like a knight almost.
Yeah.
And like Alec Baldwin's is not as great. Like it's kind of skimpy compared to the one that Anthony Hopkins is wearing.
How long were they at that campsite that it was all perfectly like?
Yeah, they would have had to dry that skin out.
Yeah, there's like no, like he's like wearing it like, oh, I'm the bear, but it's like it's not like like inside of a bear inside of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be all bloody and gross.
Yeah, like wet bear skin. You have to dry that out in the sun. Like he's just like putting it on. Like it would like be gooey still, probably.
You'd need a tanning rack, is what you would need. Full on, like.
Well, I'm sure Anthony Hopkins is like, listen, I played Valheim. I know how to make a tanning rack.
You can with a tauntaun. That's a good point. And Dirac is right. He did have a nasty Wolverine gash to the chest that they never talk about again. After he even does the thing where he like moves his hand and looks at it, and he's like, "Oh fuck!" And then it's just
like, is that lung?
Almost dies.
In the movie where after this, I mean, there's a funny moment where he's like, "I wish we had some salt," and then Anthony Hopkins is like, you can season meat with gunpowder," and then he's like, "I wish we had gunpowder." Yeah, what the fuck, man? We don't have either of those things.
There is something in the woods in the Arctic though that you can find rock salt. You can actually use rock salt. So I'm surprised he didn't say that.
Yeah,
I learned a lot
if
from
he did
Alone.
say
I
that,
actually have.
If he did say that, then Anthony Bob would have been like, "Well, I guess I wish we had some rock salt too." Then what the fuck?
Yeah.
He just keeps listing ways to season meat. And he's like, "We don't have any of this, Charles.
You can
Charles, we have none of that.
Water onto the deck."
Yeah, it's all fresh though. Charles declares he's going to start over, and then they find a cabin, and this becomes sort of a theme with Charles also through the rest of the movie, where you kind of get the impression that he wants to give up the life of being a billionaire to like move back to the woods.
Yeah, but I mean, you can understand why. There's a moment, like in terms of visuals, he's talking about it with Bob, and Bob's like, "Well, why would you want to give up all that?" And then they get up to the thing, and he's like, "I've never met a person who's given up their life before, ever. Not someone who did it truly." And then there's like this beautiful shot of the valley, like, and the sun is kind of low in the sky, and it's absolutely beautiful. And he's like, "I tell you what, I'm going to start my life over." And he's like, "Well, I'm going to do the same thing."
It's like, you'll be the first.
Yeah, you'll be the first. And it's like, you get it in the moment. It's the first time that he's been able to put all these things that he knows to practice, and he realizes, like, in another era, I wouldn't be a billionaire, but I would be able to survive. Like, I would be able to live out here and do these things. And I'm maybe more potent of a human in this setting than I am.
Well, it's also showing him that
world.
he's not just his money. Like his money affords him no advantages where he is.
Yeah, and I mean, like at the beginning of the movie, it almost seems like he's he's downtrodden and out of breath from like his life, where he's like, what am I? What am I? Like, I'm a bunch of money. That's all I am.
I'm watching
Out
this
here, I'm
fucking
actually
idiot
useful.
cuck me. I'm fucking. People are just trying to throw. People are always like throwing barbs at me about how I'm a billionaire and how I'm the one who's wrong. And also this dude just like tried to pitch a fucking resort to me because I'm a billionaire. Like all feels very inauthentic.
Charles doesn't seem like he tried to become a billionaire. He seems like it was so just successful in executing what he does, whatever it is, and became a billionaire. Just you know what I mean? Like it's not like he was like, I got to become a billionaire. It just seems like he was just
accidental billionaire.
Yeah.
You know how that's a real thing that happens.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. This November,
he pulled his bootstraps so high.
Accidental billionaire. It's just a guy. It's just about a guy who like gets an inheritance of $1 billion, which is usually the case. I have like when they get to this cabin though. This wasn't. Sorry, did I say this already? But this isn't meant to be the cabin of the person they were looking for. This is just a random hunting blind.
No, this is just like it looks like no one's been there for like 60 years. Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
it's got so trees like falling on it,
and the teapot is full of dust for some reason.
Yeah,
and the wet like the
that's how long it's been. All the dust got in through the nose noodle of that thing.
Spout,
it's all in there. It's inside there. Yeah.
And there's like maps that look ancient. There's a gun. There's some knives, some liquor, a canoe, the tea.
Immaculate canoe.
Yeah, he goes. You want some tea? After like not even like rinsing the thing out, he just pours out the dirt and he's like, "Tea?"
No, he rinses it. He's down by the river. He's rinsing.
I know, but from my point of view, it looks like
he's not that disconnected from reality. He's like, oh, that's how it works, right?
I know how to make a sandwich.
How much does a banana cost? $20.
Yeah.
And then we see Bob puts the canoe like he gets it kind of ready in the water.
Hold on. I'm like still laughing in my mind about him thinking that you just have to rinse it out once, right? Like he puts the dusty thing in there, and then when he's making the tea, it's just fucking like dirt water coming out.
Yeah, doesn't even use a tea bag.
Like, do they have tea?
It's quite earthy.
Sure.
Like you want some tea? It's like It's like I wish we had tea bags. Yeah. It's like no one's been here in years. It's like
He's like, oh, in my house, when I just open the cabinet, there's tea bags in every single one.
Yeah.
The tea is just brought to me because I have $1 billion.
$1
Just call a cab and we'll get out of here. But yeah, Bob's getting the canoe ready in the water, and then they do that movie thing where he just has that look in his eye and the realization that I don't fucking need Charles anymore. I can just canoe out of here.
I thought that so when they're first walking up, it's showing Charles's it keeps showing his eyes, right? And he's looking at things, and it's meant to give us the idea that he's scanning the environment. He notices the deadfall, he notices the canoe, and Bob just seems like he's beelining it for the door. But then we realize when Bob says let's go see if that canoe works, he's also doing the same thing. We're just not getting that moment for us to realize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is that time. We're finally kind of moving from, because the whole movie is from Charles's perspective, right? Like it's almost always him. There's never really a scene without him.
Yeah.
This is the first real moment where he is being watched by someone else and the camera lingers on him. And it's cool and it's threatening and it makes my heart sink. Yeah.
It is threatening. And I think that Bob's character is a very threateningly malicious character. He just will say a thing that's malicious, but then be like, ha, gotcha, I'm kidding. But this time he wasn't. But it does cut to Charles inside, and he's looking for something to start a fire for the stove, and a receipt falls out. He's gonna find this receipt sooner or later, whether they were stuck in the woods or
it's
not,
wild,
right?
that this is how long it took him to find it.
Exactly. They didn't burn this up for kindling earlier. Anyway, finds receipt, and the receipt, Bob's an idiot. When he went to get the watch engraved for him, or when Mickey's an idiot. Sorry,
Bob didn't know. Bob didn't know.
Yeah.
Mickey's an idiot. When Mickey went to get the watch engraved, she also got Bob's watch engraved, and it's also, did this shit cost thousands of dollars? Did you look at the price?
Well, yeah, the implication is that Bob didn't get him a gift. His wife bought 2 gifts for him, one from her, one from Bob, and then also bought a watch for Bob. So she bought 3 things at once, all from the same place, or got them all engraved at the same place at the very least. And for some reason put the fucking receipt in the box. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
For the knife.
Moron.
You're married to a billionaire. Throw the receipt. Just don't ask for a receipt. I need to get this returned.
Yeah.
And then also wrote on the watch for Bob, thanks for all the nights.
Yeah. You might as well like said like, thanks for titty fucking me. Like, what?
Which is stupid. It's not like when we meet Mickey at the beginning, she's like clearly like, oh, Charles is always away on business. Like Charles seems like a very loving husband.
Yeah.
So it's, you know what I mean? It's very obtuse, and it's very much like, how do we make this a reveal?
I don't think
that's what it felt like.
I don't think it's obtuse. I think it's more so just like,
confirmation.
This is it's just this is just a thing, right? We don't know anything about their lives outside of this scenario, right? We're not brought into the world of Charles outside of this. We're not brought into the world of any of them outside of this, except for maybe Bob, who constantly is like, this will be a better story than the last time where we're like, oh, that cab driver was so rude to me or whatever. Like, he talks about New York and stuff like that, but it doesn't bring you into his life. You know nothing about these people's lives except for who they might be outside of this world. And it seems like his wife is either just kind of like a shitty person, or who knows, she just fell in love with this photographer. We don't know, and we'll never know. That's the point. All we do know for sure is that this billionaire is in love with her, and his heart is now broken at this point. And also the friendship that he's forged means nothing. He's being used once again. It's just confirming his thoughts of like, you've used me for my money for this long. You've taken my wife, and also you've used me through this entire situation in order to get out of here and survive.
Yeah.
And also, while I'm confronting you, you're ominously loading a gun and drinking liquor.
While doing that, like that movie thing where you like put a cigarette like way too close to your, like it's about to burn out. And he's like,
yeah,
Charles, hell of a journey, Charles.
Smoking the cigarette, Charles, down to the filter, Charles.
He's like dangling it on top of the bullet case of the ammunition. I'm like, watch where those fucking sparks are going. One of those bullets is gonna go off.
But I wrote
hits him with the "can't do it sober, can you?" or whatever.
What's the matter, Bob? Can't do it sober.
I wrote,
Charles, why don't you just shut the fuck up for a second, Charles? I'm trying to think over here, Charles.
I wrote that Alec Baldwin's performance during this part was also like very good. I really liked his performance for like just their chemistry as actors in this whole movie was great, because I believed every turn. But this moment just was electrifying, I thought.
It's from exciting, for sure.
Yeah, they drop all the pretense and all the bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It's just
but there's still
like,
a little bit of it though. There's still
stop teasing me. Like, what are we doing here? Are you killing me or what?
Are we friends? Or are we fucking...
There's enough of it at the beginning of it before the pretenses are completely dropped that it's like it's now a game where it's like they're ping-ponging back and forth, and you're like, who's gonna break first? Who's gonna be the one that drops the bomb? Because like they both know what's going on. And when he's like, can I see your watch, Bob? And he's like, why do you want to see my watch? I told you it's busted. It was brand new when we got here, but now it's just a piece of fucking junk. And you're like, oh God, this is not going to end well for one of these fellows. And this guy has the gun.
Yeah, this was like the let me see your phone of the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. Let me see your watch. Your watch engraving.
Yeah.
Love your girlfriend XOXO. P.S.
Yeah.
P.S. We fucking.
Yeah, basically. And I'm not your wife. I'm somebody else's wife.
I break up.
Yeah.
I break up.
Mine says cuck-a-doodle-doo on it.
From the cuckiest girl in the world.
What does that mean?
I think you know what it means, Charles.
Charles, you know what it means. Why are you even with that broad? Why would she go with you? The weird thing is that he keeps saying go with you. And like, was this script written by like a man from the 1950s? Why would she even go with you, Charles? Come on,
They're
Charles. No one would
married.
go with
They're
you. Look at
literally
you. You're an
married.
old piece of shit with billions
You're an
of
old
dollars.
man with billions of dollars. She just wants you for your money, Charles.
Yeah.
But he basically takes him outside like old Yeller. He's like, just let's go outside with the gun. And
We're doing
for what it's worth, Charles just like kind of, it's like, you're not going to shoot me, and kind of backs him up, and then he falls into a pitfall.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean, the blessing in the situation is that
deadfall.
Bob is a fucking idiot. We know this.
Yeah.
from the
Learned
beginning.
Nothing.
He learned almost nothing. He learned
He's
some
dumber
stuff,
than
but
the average
almost.
bear.
Yeah, he's stupider than the bear itself. And like he spotted the canoe on the way in, but he definitely didn't spot the deadfall. Because if I knew what a deadfall was and I spotted one, I would absolutely make note of that in my brain.
Did you notice?
Never go near it.
When they first get there, even Charles is walking around, sort of like testing the ground for deadfalls.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, you know what I mean. Like he's aware of all this stuff, which is so great. Bob is like, "Where's the liquor and the
Where's
cigarette?"
the gun? Yeah.
And
Is
the
there
gun.
a gun in here that I can shoot this fucker with? There's a canoe over there.
Is that my getaway canoe?
First of all, we need to make sure the canoe's okay. Then I kill you. Then I drink this schnapps. And then I get out.
Like he could have overpowered him at any point during the sequence and just thrown him in the lake. Probably. I don't know how strong. They never show how
that's
strong
very personal,
Charles
though.
is.
Even he won't even shoot him to his face, right? He wants him. To
Oh
turn.
yeah.
I don't think
So
that
it's like he's not like a murder. It's not like a psycho murderer.
Yeah. He just wants to do it for the money. Like it's like every true crime thing.
I'd kill Anthony Hopkins for $1 billion. I wouldn't enjoy it or relish it, but I would do it.
Welcome to our new segment here on Hated to See This one. It's called "Would You Kill Anthony Hopkins for $1 billion?"
And how would you do it?
I don't know. You're better man than me, I guess.
Yeah, it's also a thing where I think that Bob does like him. Like he doesn't hate him. He hates things about him.
I feel like a lot of it is kind of like, damn, I wish that you were just somebody else and I could just kill you and take your money and your wife and that was fine and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he
and then he falls and hurts his leg. I think I broke my leg. It's like fucking stick pull.
I think I broke my leg, Charles. And it's like, there's a huge, like the stick that's going through your leg right now is thicker than the bone in your leg.
Yeah.
For all the great acting that Alec Baldwin does in this movie, though, when he goes I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, what you gotta be in more pain
no,
than
I think
Charles,
it's good,
no, please, no.
I kind of think it's great because like he's doing this weird, like he's passing out.
He's trying to make himself pathetic again so that Bob wants to help or that Charles wants to help him as well.
Right, but he
it's
also
funny because he's like, I know I was just trying to kill you, but come on.
Yeah, he's even saying like, you're a good man, Charles. You're a hell of a fucking guy. I never told you that. I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know what came over me. But he's also saying like, but I do know what came over me. I wanted your fucking money.
I want your money and your wife. And Charles climbs down in the hole and has the gun and he's like, and then he's like, I'm gonna get you out of here.
Yeah, that's for us though.
Yeah.
True.
That shot's for us.
But we all knew he wasn't gonna do it. I mean, there was a split second where, even though I've seen this a million times, when he does it, the way they frame it and the face that he has, you're like, oh, I would believe that he would just.
Does he catch the fish?
Yeah.
No, but then it, to be honest, it almost felt a little not arrogant, not quite arrogant, but it's like him saving him again is all. It's like he's not saving him out of the goodness of his own heart. He's saving him as look how much better I am than you. Almost like a holier than thou kind of rescue.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean,
maybe I don't know. Maybe
I read it as like this protagonist is like here, like full hero mode. Like he's not.
Maybe.
We can deal with this later.
He's like
probably
your Red Dead
let's be real.
Redemption file, but you're only making good choices.
You're only making good choices the whole time. And Bob's only making bad choices the whole time.
Yeah,
Bob will remember this.
I don't, because I don't know if I don't know what I would do in that situation. If someone was about to shoot me and I tricked them into falling into a hole where I thought they would probably die and they didn't, because that's the thing is that he probably assumed Bob would be 100% dead falling into that hole.
Probably leave him for dead.
I don't know if I would.
The thing is like
get
it's not like you can guarantee that if you save him, he's not just going to like throw you off a canoe 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would
That's what
take
I was
precautions at that point. I would make sure that he has no weapons around, and he's got a lot of blood loss. I don't think he's going to be very strong.
True.
Yeah. What does he say? He's like, "Oh, you only got so much of that stuff in you, or whatever."
Yeah.
He holds his hand. He's on the table and he holds his hands up. He's like, I only have so much of this stuff.
No,
in me,
he loosens the belt and there's a giant spurt of blood that comes out, and he's like, I guess I only got so much of that stuff in me. And yeah, I think I would probably try to do what I could, but there would be a point where it'd be too much. Where like if I was trying to if I had to like take the canoe over a hill and then also bring him over a hill, I'd be like, I'd take the canoe over and then I'd get to the other side and be like, yeah, I'm not gonna go back.
He's probably not gonna make it.
He's probably already dead. Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, they used the gun as a splint too, which I thought was like interesting. They do. He gets him. He passes out. He wakes up. He's in the canoe. They're getting out of there. Bob is just like ranting. Wow, you're such a good guy. If roles reversed, I wouldn't do the same for you. Well, he doesn't say that, but that was the impression that I got.
Yeah.
They finally get to like a little piece of land. They kind of have their final like moment. The helicopter comes.
Yeah.
He
thanks him. He apologizes. He tells him that his wife was not in on it, which is
that was a very like kind of tender moment where he's like, I promise you this was all me. Your wife didn't have anything to do with this, which I believe. I don't think Mickey was necessarily like the smartest.
I don't even think that Bob
had
that in him until he was in the extreme circumstances.
Until it was put in his head by Charles when Charles was like, so how are you going to kill me?
Yeah, there
is an argument.
Hey, you're going to kill me? You're going to kill me?
I never thought of that. If you die out here and I marry your wife, then I get your money.
Then
Charles.
I'll be a billionaire. I won't have to take racist photographs anymore.
Yeah.
And bang
set
hookers.
Stephen Baldwin up with a nice place, and Billy Baldwin, and
all my brothers. Yeah.
All the
except for Daniel. Fuck Daniel.
Daniel Baldwin can go fuck off. But yeah, that's pretty much it. He hails the helicopter, and then I thought it was very like, I knew as soon as he hailed the helicopter, he was stoked. You look back over and fucking
I like how much Baldwin like sprawled himself on the ground.
That's
like,
he
was like lying immobily like mortally wounded, about to die, and then like when Charles turns his back, he's like flip.
What was he trying to do? Was he trying to like
he did like a golden eye death?
Yeah, that's true. He stood fully up and went like
like ragdoll down to the
the way I looked at that is like he was in the end pathetic, like a very pathetic person.
Yeah.
And it's not that they didn't want to give him a dignified death, it's that he didn't deserve one. So like having him look like he tripped in the shit is like it's appropriate for the character.
It'd be funny if he turned around and there was just another bear eating him.
A bunch of little baby bears just like ripping him apart.
There was a bit of a sentiment when they were canoeing out of there too that was like, you've never had a buddy before, and this is the best you can do. I just tried to kill you, and you keep trying to quest me to the end of this. And that's Charles also says during that, I'm probably not going to go back to the real world, which of course he does. I don't know if that was like a bait and switch to be
the sequel to this, Fracture, he kills his wife, and it's a mystery for Ryan Gosling to solve.
Yeah. Bob says the wife wasn't in the plan. We talked about that. And when they get in the helicopter and go back, he gets off the helicopter. There's a big crew of people there that have, the search party, the police.
There's like a million boats, a million like biplanes or whatever they're called, the planes that fly on water and sky, and then a ton of helicopters, and then just like tons of reporters.
What a scoop!
Yeah.
Oh God, we gotta get to Alaska.
Yeah.
And the one guy like goes right up to him and he's like, "Hey, Charles!" And it's like, "Get fuck off for a second." Yeah. And they look.
Charles Morse, Frankie the Bear from the Alaska Bugle. Can I ask you a few questions?
He's like a bear.
What about the people who were killed? How did the
He turns
people
into
die?
That's more wild. That's a wild question to ask somebody who just got off of a rescue.
Yeah. He's like not even fully rescued yet.
Yeah, he hasn't even like gotten like warm water on his face or like anything. Yeah. So how'd they they're not alive. Clearly that guy's dead over there. And so what happened?
What are the exact circumstances of your death?
Tell us in detail.
When they do pull his body out in like the body bag, that's when I was like, oh, that's a brutal like realization for that giant crowd to see. And Steven's not with them, obviously.
Yeah, because you don't know if they got radioed ahead saying like, oh, the 4 of them are coming, or just only Charles is alive.
We found one, yeah.
Charles went out there and killed all those guys and then walked back.
Yeah.
He's covered in scars and has like the bear costume on.
Yeah,
he's holding Alec Baldwin's head, like
like some kind of fucking sick, twisted billionaire safari where he brings his inner circle out there and just kills them off one by one.
And then he's like, it was just a prank. Remember when you pranked me at the beginning of the movie? This is my prank.
It'd be funny if Alec Baldwin got off. It'd be funny if Alec Baldwin got off the helicopter and the wife was like, he's okay, and then Charles takes off the Alec Baldwin pelt and is like, ah! Not so funny now, is it? Make me a sandwich, you fucking bitch.
Oh my god!
I knew where you were going like seconds into that, and I almost spit my entire drink all over my screen. Oh, I'm sorry, Charles.
The movie does very much end like
everyone, Charles.
Like the end of a book where he hands the watch to Mickey and then he says the line my friends, they died saving my life. Credits. And the credit music, we don't usually talk about the music during the credits because it's usually some whatever song, but it was wild. It was like was insane.
And we were like, whoa.
Whoa. It's like, I will run so far to me.
But
Linkin Park.
Yeah, it was an Omega Seamaster. It's a nice watch. Same watch that James Bond has.
Yeah. It's so that you can, you know what time it is in LA, and then when you're in New York, you don't have to go through the agony of adding 3.
Yeah. And the credits roll and it goes dun 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 dun. Ding, ding.
I kind of like the ending a lot because he's crying for so many fucking reasons. Like, he watched people die. People saved his life. He saved people's lives. He's realizing that the friends he thought he had were not his real friends.
His wife.
But he's realizing also that his worst enemies were also maybe his actual best friends that he's ever had, the people that he had this experience with. His wife, I'm sure his wife actually cares about him. I don't think that she's like a horrible person. I think that she's a duplicitous person where she is like, I am attracted to this.
Both.
Yeah. Because she says some very sweet things to him throughout the movie, and you can tell that there's real care there, but it doesn't matter. She's still doing things that she shouldn't.
It was a very she knew, and she holds the watch. She's like, oh fuck.
And he doesn't say anything to her. Well, I mean, he gives her a hug because he does care about her, but he's like, but this is the last
but he does make
speak.
Make Hannibal Lecter face behind her back where he's like,
he turns around to the cameras and he goes, and they're like, so how did they die? And he's like, Fava beans.
He ate part with the nice Chianti.
Yeah,
nice Chianti and Fava beans. But that is the film, The Edge, starring Hopkins and Baldwin Alexson. That's gonna be that. Do you guys want to play a little game?
Sure.
I think so, but I think we should do one thing first.
If you had to pick one,
think the Home Alone of it all?
The Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
The Home Alone of it all is very simple, folks. We've kind of boiled it down to like when the movie gets going. It's the idea that in the movie Home Alone, everybody came to see the part where Kevin McAllister booby traps the house and wants to see Harry and Merv get cartoon murdered,
Eaten by a bear.
Eaten by a bear. Most movies, sometimes it's just the third act. Sometimes the movies don't have one. Sometimes it's just like when the movie actually gets going. And just like the start, we'll have our guest go first. I believe you're familiar with this concept at this point, Alex. So
I think
hi.
I think that for me, it's the I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. I'm gonna kill the motherfucker. About, like, you know what I mean? Talking about killing the bear, and then that's kind of like when they decide to try to take fate into their own hands. Obviously, some of the more emotionally charged moments happen even after the bear's dead. But for me, that was kind of when they decide they're not running away from the bear anymore. Now they're, you know what I mean? They're gonna take control of their own fate in the wilderness.
Okay,
I think
good.
that's a good moment. Yeah,
mine's real quick. It's just basically when they crash land, and then the conceit of the movie begins. That's what it was for me.
For me, it's when Steven gets eaten. That's when. That's when they know that this is not.
The stakes are real.
Yeah, they have to kill the motherfucker, and like they can't. I mean, we know that he's chasing that it's chasing them because it chased them to him.
Yeah.
Why are we to think that it wouldn't continuously chase them forever? It's a man eater, just like Jaws, as Jason said.
It's a man eater.
It's the Jaws of the woods. Yeah. It's a land Jaws, as they say.
Yeah.
I feel like if Kevin Smith made that third one, Moose Jaws, it would just be like this movie, but like not serious at all.
Yeah. Johnny Depp.
Shit, garbage.
Canadian Mountie or whatever.
Yeah.
All right.
Fantastic.
Shall we play the game?
Dun, 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 dun.
You guys switch sides.
It's time to play Guess the MPAA.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the hottest game show in the history of game shows. My name's Bear Grylls, and I'm here today to tell you that the MPAA certificate rating game is simple. This MPAA certificate is, of course, the 5-digit number that comes at the end of every film, indicating that the movie has been rated by the MPAA. And today, I'm going to give you the first two numbers of that 5-digit number, and all you have to do is give me a number between 0 and 999 to indicate the 5-digit number. I don't know. I'm going to figure out how to explain this one day. The first two numbers this week, of course, are 3-5.
Of course.
Alex, go first.
645.
Steve, it is lower.
300.
Alex, it is lower.
Oh, then it's 196.
Steve, the final guess for this week's game is higher.
2-1. 1.
It hit the fart sound.
Oh.
The number this week is
35275.
One day these days we'll get that shit. What's next?
The MPAA.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
I really like Tim's message here because this is the game. And yeah, getting
We
closer.
should do the game on the show one day. That movie's wild.
And then we play the game on the show.
Yeah. Jason, I hired a puppet to freak you out.
You Bear Grylls, and they grilled a bear in this movie.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, they
But
did.
whoa.
Were
It's
they
not
ripping
real.
off Bear Grylls?
I would, yes. They were like before Bear Grylls was even a survival master. They knew it.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Wow. again, the guest goes first. So, Alex, why don't you give us your final thoughts? And if you have a rating, whether it's a comedic rating, if it's out of a 5, out of a 10, hit us with it. Your final thoughts.
It was a very good movie. I thought it was well acted and believable. I feel like sometimes if you have people who are too famous, it's easy to see them as themselves. But I believed Charles, and I believed Bob, and I believed Steve. You know, they seemed like they were real people in the context of the film. So that's a good plus. It subverted my expectations, and it met kind of my expectations of those actors. So all that was pretty good. So I would say I give it probably 4 time zones out of 5.
Nice. Perfect. Steve, what are your final thoughts for The Edge?
The Edge. What a movie greasy with nostalgia. This movie is dripping with it. Dripping like a chunk of bear meat grilling over a fire, unsalted, unpowdered by gunpowder. When I think of this movie, I think, man, I should hack up a bear tooth and make myself a necklace out of this. I don't like billionaires, but I like this billionaire. He's a good billionaire. He's a billionaire with a heart of billions of dollars. But he's not willing to give it to anybody. He doesn't even want to give a measly $40 million to this bear scarred man. Jeez. I mean, I get it. He's got, approachability issues, but in the right circumstances, he would maybe fund that resort. In terms of liking it, I love it. I love this movie. I watch it all the time. I've used this term on the show before. It's a chicken soup movie. If you're hungover on a Sunday, if you get the flu, if you don't feel good and you don't want to go to school that day, pop on The Edge if you're not scared of a little bit of gruesome violence, because it makes you feel warm and nice. The sensibilities of 90s filmmaking is strong in this movie, and those movies were designed to make you feel good, and this movie makes me feel good. When it comes to a rating, I give it 1 full fucking goose to the chest. Sorry, I forgot to do those sounds.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm on it.
I get too overwhelmed with what I'm gonna say, and I'm like, what am I gonna say? What am I gonna say?
I'll just do that part because I'm weirdly particular about it. For me, I wrote, wow. I didn't expect such a fun survival horror film. It's not a survival horror film. It's a survival / horror film, like monster
/ thriller / yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're not wrong. You're right.
I wasn't sure what this even was going in until like the weekend. But the character work was excellent, and the performances from Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin were stellar. I liked a lot that this film had to offer. It's an interesting thing, survival films, but add in the monster element, and it adds so much more tension. Also, I wanted to just bring up the score again. It was triumphant, like a superhero movie or the Spider-Man games. I give it 3.7 out of 5. And I also give it 180 Charles.
Right. Out of just like, that's the maximum you can get.
Yeah.
That's how many Charles there were.
Out of 100.
Yeah. But I guess that's it. I'm gonna do the. I guess. Alex, do you have anything you want to plug?
I would just like a little recognition that I am still in a onesie.
Full bear costume. Yeah.
Full bear
Costume.
Full
Probably you're gonna need to take a shower.
Yeah.
I can smell you through my webcam.
Yeah. You gotta take me out and bury me so that I don't attack bears.
We need to bury that.
Well, thank you for being on the show. I'm gonna give you one more of these because I didn't give you one on your.
Thank you for having me.
You're
I have
welcome.
a lot of fun doing it, always.
You're welcome anytime. You're in the new era where we fucking do this show for 3 hours, but it's fine because Oh, Wendy M doesn't think the costume designer was good. Wasn't scared of the bear.
Well, that's my mom. So, you know what, Tim? I actually, I'm at a cottage right now, and I was just grabbing clothes and throwing them in a suitcase, and I saw the bear costume this morning. Like the bear onesie, I bought it as a joke at Giant Tiger a couple summers ago, and I was like, this would be perfect for the podcast. So I brought it to wear for this. So I didn't buy it for the podcast. I did have it pre-existing. So that's the answer, the actual answer to your question.
Steve was literally, before you came on, he was like, I wish that I had a bear costume of some sort.
That is very
I was really relieved because last week I dressed as a disco boy, and now next week we've got to have somebody dress up as a Star Trek character, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll ask our guest to come on with the.
What do you do in Galaxy Quest?
Yeah.
Oh, is that a spoiler?
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's in the trailer. At the
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that
the
movie
intro.
too.
I'm gonna do you can find us on all social media at Hey Did You See This One. We are a proud card-carrying member of the United Federation of Podcasts. You can watch Graphic Histories. It's a graphic novel and comic book podcast. You can watch Trivial Debates. It's a debate game show kind of hybrid. You can watch X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show, which is wrapping up X-Men 97 right now. The series season finale aired yesterday. I think they have a show tomorrow, I believe. Live Long and Podcast, a podcast about Star Trek and all things Star Trek. Hold Up, a movie podcast. It's our sister podcast where we talk about one movie for 3 hours. They talk about 3 movies for 2 hours. They might be
psychopaths. I don't know how they do it.
Crazy. I've been on it. It's great. It's a good show. I like it. Aim on Track. I've been saying it wrong this whole time. It's a music podcast. I'd like to get invited onto that one day. And of course, Hey, did you see this one? That's our show. You just watched it. You know what it is. And I think with that, I can just say, Alex, around these parts, we have one question that we ask the audience each and every week. Why don't you ask the question?
Hey, did you see that one?
Oh.
This
Hey,
Bob.
what did-
This Bob. That Bob. 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 Bob.
What do you mean, Charles? Charles, what do you mean this or that, Charles? Charles, oh, fuck you, Charles. You hate blanks, and you hate blinks, and you hate blonks. That's how it's going to be, Charles.
Is that all you got?
Well, no, there's a motorcycle outside. Got more.